please stand for the Worshipful the Mayor of Croydon, Councillor Patricia Hay-Justice.
Right, okay. Good evening, everyone. Please be seated. Chief Executive.
Councillors, guests, officers and members of the public are advised that in the event of a fire alarm sounding, please leave the Town Hall as indicated by Council staff and congregate in Queen's Gardens until advised by Council staff that it's safe to return. In order for members to be heard in the gallery and the chamber, and for those watching the webcast, councillors are reminded to switch their microphones on when speaking and to switch them off at all other times. Councillors, officers and members of the public are reminded to leave the meeting should you wish to make or receive a telephone call. With this exception, you're able to record the meeting if you wish, but please refrain from taking photographs of people in the gallery. Can I just apologise for the late start of this evening? We were dealing with a procedural motion that was brought to our attention just a little while ago.
Agenda item 1. Apologies for absence. Chief Executive.
Apologies have been received from Councillor Fleming.
Are there any other apologies? None. Agenda item 2, minutes. Does the Council approve the minutes of the ordinary Council meeting held on Monday the 29th of February 2016? Please say aye. Aye. Agenda item 3, disclosures of interest. Can members please say aye to confirm that their disclosure of interest forms are accurate and up to date? Aye. Any other declarations that members may wish to make during the meeting should be made orally. Agenda item 4, urgent business. I believe there is no urgent business. Agenda item 5. There is no business under this item, which is exempt items. Agenda item number 6. Announcements. First of all, I want to thank those individuals that came yesterday to my comedy night. I've heard a great deal of feedback and I heard it was a brilliant night. So thank you very much. Also want to say thank you formally to those artists that took part. There are a few other events coming up, of course, namely on Thursday. This Thursday is the afternoon tea in honour of Her Majesty the Queen's birthday. And there are 2 other events. First event is the Golf Day, the 29th of May, and that's an all-day event followed by a dinner. And the last event is my final farewell dinner, gala dinner, that's going to be taking place on the 6th of May. Councillor Newman, I understand that you have some announcements, and can I ask that you address your request for item 19 to be brought forward with your announcement?
Yes, can I then formally request we bring forward the paper on item 19 in terms of the interim arrangements and regarding the Chief Exec, and I understand you'll formally ask the Council to agree, but if we can take that as read. Just a couple of things, Madam Mayor, building on your what you just said there, I'm sure the whole Chamber would want to join with me in making sure we send a message to Her Majesty to get to the Palace by next Thursday on the occasion of her 90th birthday. So I think we should wish her a very happy birthday from this Chamber indeed. On slightly more practical but equally important matters, Madam Mayor, I did bring to the attention of the last full Council meeting that we had got back, clawed back, won back, if you like, the £4 million from the Home Office that was taken from this council in between budgets regarding the unaccompanied asylum seekers, children funding. I'm also delighted to note in a very welcome letter here that we've received today from James Brokenshire, the Minister, that he's agreed that for the year going forward that we will maintain what is the payment rates that last year's were based on, which means we've secured the funding for the next year as well in terms of that vital service. So the stance this administration took on that has paid off there, and we have that funding in place for next year. I think the other thing I would just want to draw attention to is, again, perhaps through you, Madam Mayor, if we could send congratulations to what I understand is a very healthy baby girl given birth by Councillor Elisa Fleming. That's why she's not with us tonight. But clearly, congratulations to Elisa as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Before I proceed, I just need to make sure people are aware, preempting what's just been said. I don't know if people are aware, but they should be by now, that there is a book that's downstairs at the reception. Members of the public, as you, I don't know if anybody's been asked about the book, but the book is there for the members, all members of the public to sign. It's a book that we are going to then be leather binding and sending to the palace from people of Croydon. That will be sent at a later date, but it will certainly, there will be a message that will be sent to the palace, has already, I should say, been sent by Croydon Council and the Mayor, not completely independent. Moving forward. The report of Director of Human Resources has been circulated. Does the Council agree the recommendations contained in the report? Please say aye. Those against? The ayes have it. Since the last meeting, Councillor Keremiah is now sitting as an independent councillor. Councillor Keremiah, I understand you wish to make a statement. You have no more than 2 minutes.
Yes, Madam Mayor, thank you very much for the opportunity for this personal explanation about recent events in my personal life, as many of you might have read. As I'm submitting an appeal against the court decision, I would not go into details of those issues. I would like to assure you that I have done nothing wrong. I'm not asking you to take sides on this issue, but just to suspend judgment. There are two parts to my point of personal explanation, Madam Mayor: mental health and the private lives of councillors. Madam Mayor, you have made mental health one of your charities for this year. Few people can possibly know what it is like for a family to live with a person affected by mental health. My family life has been deeply affected and damaged by the impact of mental health or mental illness. 1 of 4 of us will either personally experience a mental health issue or will live with someone who has mental illness. That means that 16 people in this room will know what my family has gone through over many years. Everyone is affected in different ways. Divorce was just one impact of mental illness on my family. I ask you tonight not to take it from me, but to Google the effect of mental health on family life. You will find evidence of confusion, exhaustion, loneliness, isolation, frustration, depression, anger, as well as love, care, and compassion mentioned. I now turn to the issue of personal life for councillors. Judge Coonan accused me of taking advantage of my ex-wife. This is the subject of an appeal. You will notice that the judge did not say that I did anything illegal. The judge made some very damaging statements about my person and past events during a very difficult and stressful part of my life. As you know, family proceedings can be protracted, complex, and deeply challenging. Many of you would have experienced this yourselves. These are sensitive matters, and the law usually protects these matters from publication. I was therefore deeply hurt when Fisher Meredith solicitors, for their own business interests, applied to the judge to allow publication of the details of the case just because I'm a councillor. That was an attack on all councillors and everyone who holds elected office. Just because you hold public office does not mean that you have no right to privacy on family matters.
Councillor Keremiah, your 2 minutes is up. Thank you very much.
Can I just finish, Madam Mayor, by just stating
I'm going to be really strict, Councillor. Thank you so very much.
Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Madam Mayor, members of the Council, distinguished guests and members of the public, agenda item number 7, vote of thanks. Madam Mayor, I now invite you to make your farewell address to the Council.
Councillors, distinguished guests, friends and members of the public. My year has gone by in a flash, and it doesn't seem as though it's only yesterday that I was doing my acceptance speech. A great deal has taken place in this year, and I want to place on record that serving as Mayor in London's largest borough has been a great privilege and honour. Serving from an independent civic office has further shaped my view of our town, and I shall share this, and I shall certainly hold this for, but I also want to share my thoughts on this later on in my passage. When moving into the borough, I quickly developed a great pride for Croydon, and I believe that we should all work to our borough's motto. I'm not going to try and say it because I didn't do Latin at school, but it translates into to strive to be our best for the good of our community. This motto has been with me wherever I've been, and I'm enjoying maintaining the strong civic links that we have with so many organisations and individuals, both within and outside our borough, as too with the promotion of inclusivity, acceptance of others, and the promotion of social cohesion. I believe whatever happens, it's the role of the Mayor to uphold the dignity and the integrity of the office, and I'm thankful to both leaders for their support in this and ensuring that their members show great respect to each other. Drawing towards the end of my term, there have been almost 700 events. I've really enjoyed visiting all the areas of our borough, engaging in art, religious, business, emergency and healthcare sectors, in addition to our educational, charity and voluntary sector organisations. We are a borough of many different cultures, all contributing to one. It's been a real pleasure meeting so many different people, spanning the array of the diversity of Croydon life. It's been a delight to attend so many distinctive cultural events and to join in the many celebration events across the borough that reflect and enhance our community. And I thank the many members of the public who have recognised the neutrality of the mayoralty and the work that we've done throughout the year, putting Croydon's interest first and foremost. In my role, one thing really stands out for me, and that's as a borough, we're really blessed by the many people who freely give of their time and never ask for personal recognition. It's a great reflection on Croydon, and that so many people devote their lives to helping others. The strong link between civic life and Croydon residents is highly apparent, and ever more so at the Remembrance Day service and subsequent parade, when we saw a record number of people attend this year and then march down to Catherine Street and watch the parade. It's a day that I certainly will never forget, and I'm sure those in attendance have the same sentiments. The military connection in Croydon remains strong, and I've made it one of my goals during my year to ensure that we maintain the relationship, which has been exemplified by the return of the Croydon 2nd Rifles and to once again exercise their right to march in the borough. This year has been filled with so many poignant and memorable events. Among these have been the visit to our twinned town, Arnhem. In joining the Mayor of Arnhem, I represented Croydon in our remembrance of those who gave their lives for us in September 1944. The visit was a great success for strengthening our ties, and for the first time the Mayor himself came to visit Croydon, and having joined in with some of our community events, he volunteered he would return again. I can also report that Croydon is well thought of by the Hong Kong Trades Minister, the Mayor of New York, Confucius Institute, and areas of both West and East Indies. Back home, it was a delight to raise the starter flag at Croydon's first major cycling event, presenting well-deserved positive publicity of our town, and I look forward to seeing this event grow. Amongst my proudest moments, it's getting stuck in my throat. Amongst my proudest moments have been the many presentations of awards of our borough's achievers, including Jack Petrie Award winners, academic achievers, civic and business awards winners. I've attended many productions and concerts that have been truly amazing and clearly demonstrate the great wealth of talent within our borough. One of my personal achievements have been to realise my vision of Croydon in our entry of the London New Year's Day Parade. Working with a group of community volunteers, I took the unprecedented step to project manage Croydon's 2016 entry. In addition to providing further positive promotion to our town, we brought home one of the winning trophies and, of course, many much-needed funds for my charity. Thank you to the community groups, businesses, Steve Isles, Stubbs Mead team, in-house facilities team and Interserve team. You were all amazing in going the extra mile. Underpinning my work this year has been my commitment to raising the profile and much-needed funds for my two charities, Mind in Croydon and Caish. Through a great fundraising committee, I've made up, of ordinary community volunteers, events such as the comedy night, wine tasting, but I don't know if those that were there, I don't know if you'd call it wine tasting with the amounts that were filled in the glasses, and a great garden party have been staged. Thank you, committee members, and in particular, Margarita, who have volunteered her time to do the minutes and many other administrative duties in the office. You will see from the event flyers all over the town hall that I've not finished yet. There's still much needed work to be done there to make even more money for those two deserving charities. I'm grateful for the help and support of so many during my mayoral year, and in making it such a success, and I have many people to thank. So firstly, I should thank the people of Croydon for their tremendous support, their endorsement of my conduct, and making me a mayor for all people of our borough. I thank the people of Addiscombe, the wards that I was voted to represent, and my two ward colleagues for being so understanding of my role. There have been changes in the mayoral admin office, and whilst we miss the old team, I'm grateful for the support of the new in the form of Denise and John. Thank you for the many hours of hard work and dedication during this year we've all learnt together. I'm so grateful for the support of the chauffeurs and again, John. in your role as, I would say, administrator, mace bearer and chauffeur. Without a doubt, you could actually show your commitment and loyalty to the mayoralty. Please, John, I ask that you take a bow so we all know who you are. You will certainly be missed. I should also like to thank our relief chauffeur, Alex, and Alan, who is not currently present through illness. It's been that type of year, really, when staff have come and gone. So I would also like to place on record my many thanks to my previous PA, Kay Collins, the monitoring officer for our borough, Julie Belvier, and our outgoing Chief Executive, Nathan Elvery. And I welcome Sarah Ireland to the fold. To Colonel Ian McRobbie, the DL for Croydon, for your service to the borough, together with Lee. To my deputy, Councillor Wayne Tracus-Lawler, and his consort Michael. We've had a great working relationship this year, and you've been sterling in your support over the last months. I'm proud of the way that we've worked together, and you too have ensured the standards of the mayoralty have been upheld. I'm delighted to wish Councillor Tracus-Lawler all the best for his year ahead as Croydon's incoming mayor. I have every confidence that you will be, no doubt, a fantastic ambassador for Croydon and uphold the Croydon pledge, of course, striving to be our best in your term of office. I reserve my final vote of thanks to my friends, my personal friends and family. Some here tonight, and I thank you for that. And others, I know you're watching our webcast. To the ladies who at times have been a surrogate mother to my girls. Sorry about that, it's not like me. I give you great thanks. To my two dear girls, Isabel and Elizabeth. You've experienced times both good and bad over the last 2 years, during which time I can certainly say I've been so very proud of your conduct. Thank you for your support and your selfless sharing of Mummy. To my parents and my mother-in-law, thank you for your endless love and support, even in the face of your personal losses. To my consort and my husband, Mark Justice, you have shown tremendous strength of character, and I thank you most dearly for your tremendous supportive nature. You've really been a great rock to me, and I wouldn't have been able to do this without you and my God. I am proud to have served all people of Croydon as our borough's first black female mayor. Until holding this office, I did not fully realise the importance of the civic role, and what it means to the people of Croydon. From visiting a lady on her 100th birthday to attending an event with hundreds present, having the mayor in attendance means so much to people. It really does make a difference, and it engages community pride. I consider it the duty and responsibility of all of us to unite behind the role of the mayor and to ensure that we continue to be proud of our civic inheritance and that we continue to support the role in future years. For me, this year has confirmed that people of Croydon have an amazing community spirit, work ethic, and despite any bad press, Our reputation is continually improving, and this tidal wave is unstoppable. Councillors, thank you for your support of me and the mayoralty. Chairing our council meeting has been a pleasure and a privilege. Democracy is certainly alive in Croydon, and we must never forget the privilege of it being enjoyed. Our ability to actually speak freely and able to put forward arguments from all sides of the political arena. Just behave yourselves, though, during this last meeting. Thank you.
I now call on the Leader of the Council, Councillor Tony Newman, to move the vote of thanks as printed in the agenda.
It's great to see some of Patricia's fan club up there, I don't know. Look, Madam Mayor, over the last 12 months we've been lucky to have a mayor who has put Croydon at the heart of everything you've done and been a true ambassador for our town. And at times it's easy to forget that you were only elected in 2010. Yet at times you've had to show the wisdom of a councillor that's been here perhaps for generations, as perhaps only Dudley could reflect on, as he was actually with me earlier. So huge experience goes into this role, and you've shown it. And looking back over the last year, I remember you being clear that some of your priorities as a mayor would be to promote the town, which you've clearly done, and support your two charities, Minding Croydon and the homeless charity Cache. Well, anyone, as I did, who saw your fantastic comedy last night promoted at the Fairfield Halls would agree what a magnificent job you've done. That was a fantastic event, and I know you've got a few more lined up, as you've said, to bring the year to a conclusion and raise even more money for those very worthy charities. To praise your work as the mayor, you may, at times, I think other mayors may think this. Does anyone know, the numerous meetings you're doing and the feedback we're getting from them? Well, as the Leader of the Council, I do perhaps more than most, and it's been very, very strong feedback, whether that's from the school children, as you say, who've been inspired from meeting the Mayor, through to business leaders, community leaders, local military reps and others. And I think this reflects the inclusive approach that you have taken over the last year, not in the least, as you've said, in this year's Poignant Remembrance service event that we held. And there are many other things you've done, which I'm not going to attempt to list all of them over here in this short piece. But in terms of the support for the town, in terms of the support for Croydon, it has been tireless. And events that you've embraced very much in partnership with other colleagues, such as the traditional Arnhem link, yes, but perhaps promoting the recent autism awareness event that we've held, the flags and parades you've had, the New Year's Day parade, where Croydon was amongst the stars, amongst other boroughs on New Year's Day. So looking, as I said, at the Chamber and perhaps looking across to Dudley, there's much we often agree on, but where we haven't agreed, then I think it's fair to say that you, as a Madam Mayor, have kept us all in line, I think, at what is often a challenging time and a hugely challenging role. But I think you've done that with great heart, with great soul and great dignity, and on behalf of the citizens of Croydon, I move that. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Councillor Tim Pollard, Leader of the Opposition, to second the vote of thanks.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. During the course of the year, I've had the privilege of coming across you in the carrying out of your duties on a number of occasions, but probably most bizarrely and unusually back in November, when I inadvertently found myself as the prize in a competition, and the other half of the prize was Madam Mayor. And how it's not as bad as it sounds. How that came about was that in my when I'm not being Leader of the Opposition, I'm a photographer and photography tutor, and I was roped in by Croydon Rotary to an excellent competition that they run for young people to put forward their vision of Croydon photographically. And I was asked to be a judge on that, and I said I was very happy to do so. It was only after I'd done that that I discovered that part of the prize that this poor unfortunate winner was going to get was some tuition from me and an excellent model in the form of Madam Mayor. And we had a photo shoot, partly in the Mayor's Parlour and partly in this room, which, Madam Mayor, you carried out with unfailing good humour, in spite of the fact that the light in here is not fantastic, so you had to stand extremely still, saying nothing at all for extended periods of time, which I'm sure is very good for the soul. So thank you for your support then and for all of the other excellent work you've done about the town during the course of the year. So I'm very happy to second this motion.
Thank you. I'm now putting the motion to the vote. Those in favour, please say aye. Aye. I think the ayes have it.
Moving on to agenda item number 8, public petitions debate, Fairfield Halls. Just bear with me. Right, okay. A petition has been received from the public and in accordance with the Constitution will be debated tonight. Chief Executive, please explain the process.
The purpose of a public petition is to bring matters of importance to the community to the Council's attention. The matters discussed during this debate will be considered by the decision maker. The structure is as follows. The lead petitioner, Mr Andy Hilton, will speak for up to 3 minutes from the public gallery. 6 councillors, 3 from each political group, will then speak for up to 3 minutes each. At the end of the debate, there will be a vote. The petition wording has been circulated around the chamber and the public gallery. The wording of the petition is that Croydon Council reverse its current plans to close Fairfield Halls and instead work towards a phased development, which will keep this important landmark open to the community and prevent the loss of valuable jobs at the venue.
Thank you, Chief Executive. Mr Hilton, would you kindly speak? You have no more than 3 minutes.
Good evening. Does my time start now? Okay, whilst we commend the Council's proposed investment and ambitious vision for Croydon, we don't support the idea of a complete closure of Fairfield Halls.
Test, test.
It is on. Okay, I'll start again. Okay? Okay, whilst we commend the Council's proposed investment and ambitious vision for Croydon, we don't support the idea of a closure of Fairfield Halls. Leaving Croydon without a major venue large enough to support the events, concerts, schools and the community for more than 2 years is not acceptable. But how can any proper decision be made without a future operator on board? And if this is a commercial operator, will community groups still have affordable access? Keeping Fairfield open throughout the refurbishment and retaining the links to the community will make Croydon a happier and healthier place to live. Closing the amenity for 2 years will risk breaking this valuable link. Fairfield is perfect for phasing. The 3 venues allow at least one to remain open at any time and mean that shows, events and community access can continue. With a phased approach, you get continuity of trading and revenue, retention of key staff and expertise, retention of relationships with promoters, artists and hirers, engagement with the new prospective audiences, but importantly, minimum loss of community access during a closure, leaving a half-complete building. Reopening in 2 years may have to be phased anyway. And a phased refurbishment will give the same end results, but without losing so many local jobs and the valuable community access to it for 2 years. Councillor Newman, you recently said to me this council meeting wasn't real life, if you remember. Well, real life is 70 full-time work and consider an additional contemporary venue in Croydon during all the works also. Fairfield must maintain a vital cultural presence in the centre of our town and keep our community together with a strong interim offer. Keep Fairfield open so it will continue to be viable in the future and bring joy to the community through the long years of Croydon's regeneration. Thank you.
understand that the live feed to the public areas has gone down, and therefore nobody out there can hear anything that's being said. I think if that's the case, unless it's been fixed in the last few minutes, we should call a halt now and fix it so that people can actually hear what we're saying.
We've lost live feeds to one of the rooms. Everybody that's in that room has been moved to the other rooms where the live feed is taking place. So it's only to one room that the live feed's been lost. I'm sorry, no. The webcast is working. It's just one of the live feeds to one of the rooms is not working.
Mr Hilton, thank you so much for that. I've used my discretion for you to go over, but can I say to all the councillors, I certainly won't be using that same discretion, so the time I say that you have is the time that's allocated. I now call on Councillor Timothy Godfrey to speak. You have no more than 3 minutes.
Madam Mayor, sorry, could you comment on Councillor Pollard's comments that there isn't live feed at the moment? And we've also been told via tweets that the webcast is not live at the moment. So at the moment, there's nothing. The people of Croydon can't.
Right. I would ask that members of the public, can I remind you that it is a meeting that members of the public can attend. We started later. Now, please appreciate that we really do want to have the debate. I'm happy to accommodate. Let's just have the debate. Thank you.
Can we just have a little bit of calm, everybody? The web feed is up and running. For those of you that have a problem with your phone, I suggest it's a problem with your phone, not a problem with the live feed. The live feed is now working and it's updated and running.
If you continue
Madam Mayor, we seem to have two gentlemen upstairs in the front rows there who are continuously heckling at this meeting and previous meetings.
Thank you very much,
Can I suggest if they don't quieten down that you ask them to leave?
Thank you, Councillor. Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Timothy Godfrey, you have no more than 3 minutes.
Thank you very much, Madam Mayor. I'm grateful for the passion and commitment that has been shown to the Fairfield Halls tonight by the public. It is truly wonderful to have 8,000 people who care enough or are worried enough to sign a petition. To the hundreds that have come to meetings, to organise and to lobby, this level of engagement and passion makes me feel confident about the future of the venue. It is the same intense passion and conviction that drives us to put culture at the centre of Croydon's future. When we made the very significant decision to proceed on the £30 million refurbishment and restoration of the Fairfield, we understood that it would have a significant impact on the Fairfield and its staff. Even in a phased refurbishment, there would have been staffing restructures with redundancies, and the operational side would have required substantial funding over the 3 to 4 years of disruption. Most importantly, technically, the phased development would not have been a safe, never mind affordable option. Our understanding of the impact and our commitment to the Fairfield and its existing staff meant that we have just completed a £750,000 cash injection into the Fairfield. This is to enable proper closure, and the detail of the arrangements with staff is, of course, a matter for the employer. We are and always have been listening to professional advice and have a stellar team working with Mott MacDonald and Rick Mather Architects. We will be working with the Theatres Trust and have taken them up on their offer of a peer advisory review, and I'm delighted to let you know that this has been agreed with them earlier today. This is the start of a 2-year project to renew Fairfield for the next 50 years. We have engaged a senior and experienced officer specifically to lead the development of the operational model for Fairfield, and we will be undertaking a proper procurement exercise to be completed by the end of the year. Our aim is absolutely to have our operating model in place in time to influence the design and build work as and if needed. We will look at how we expand and enrich the future Fairfield offer across music, theatre, dance, working with a wide range of partners and communities, taking on board the expectations and aspirations that there are for Fairfield. Everything we do is driven by our ambition for Fairfield and for our borough. Fairfield truly needs saving from its current position. Future Fairfield will cost less to run, will have a new heating system, will be free of asbestos, and most importantly, it will be saved for the future generations of Croydon residents to enjoy as past residents enjoyed Fairfield in its heyday. This is an exciting project that will make future generations proud of what we were able to achieve. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
I now call on Councillor Lynn Hale to speak. You have no more than 3 minutes.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Like everyone else, I support 100% the refurbishment of Fairfield Halls, but I think the decision to close it completely for 2 years is wrong. The plans are still far too airy-fairy, financially risky, and the plans we have heard about raise far more questions than giving any answers at all. As it stands, there's no planning consent in place, no detailed design proposal, insufficient finance to complete the works, no timetable construction plan, and no clear idea of the new operator model. So how on earth it can be announced that Fairfield will reopen in 2 years beggars belief. It's a massive gamble with Croydon Council taxpayers' hard-earned money, and the hefty price being paid is the loss of jobs, those employed, and the wonderful core of volunteers, the loss of Fairfield staff, their professional expertise, the loss of facility for our community groups to use and charities to fundraise, and the loss of opportunity for the hundreds of children who perform there every year, singing, dancing, playing in our orchestras, through fantastic organisations like Croydon Dance Association and Croydon Music and Arts. This council was working on a phased refurbishment right up until last year. It had, and it still has, great merit. We are told there are complexity and construction risks to phasing, but we've not been allowed to see the details of these concerns, as the Mott MacDonald report is still mysteriously being kept under wraps. But many schemes are safely worked around live buildings, and it's just a question of designing an events programme around the phasing. Look at the advantages. Keeping Fairfield's doors open keeps the public and their money coming in. It retains the professional expertise, which we'd be mad not to use in the full design. It negates any concerns about reopening costs. It means we keep Fairfield open without having to worry quite so much that the developer's money actually does come in. It gives the best opportunities to manage any construction and/or finance hiccups along the way. And crucially, it protects jobs that otherwise will just go, and it allows continued use by local community groups, charities, schools and our music and dance students. Without Fairfield, they'll be homeless, and there are no guarantees if and when they can return and make their valuable contributions to culture in Croydon. I support this petition and call for a full review of the decision to close Fairfield this July and go back to the original plan for a phased refurbishment. Thank you.
I now call on Councillor Stephen Mann to speak. You have no more than 3 minutes.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm pleased to speak to this debate tonight and take the opportunity to place on record my belief that this is a great opportunity for our borough. And whilst it's a matter for the Fairfield Trust as the employer, I would also like to extend my thoughts to the Fairfield staff and their families at this difficult time. From staff to residents, both young and old, I have not spoken to anyone that does not care about the Fairfield. It is one of Croydon's treasures. One of my earliest memories was visiting the Fairfield to see Sooty, and just for the record, I have long since realised that stuffed bears can neither talk nor whisper. Now, as we all know, Fairfield has for many years been showing its age. The building is tired and refurbishment is long overdue. Consider it like the ornamental clock on your grandparents' mantelpiece that, although wonderful, struggles to keep time and really does need a service. In the Fairfield's case, that service is many years overdue. As part of their cultural asset stripping, the opposition rambled on and on about doing something, and even stripped another one of our assets, the Riesco collection, to partially pay for their eventual idea. Along with the David Lean, the Mellor and the Warehouse, we've got a trend coming on here, haven't we? In recent years, the Fairfield that played host to the Beatles and Morecambe and Wise acts has been largely relegated to an afterthought on the touring circuit, with Wimbledon, Brixton, Kingston and Bromley taking a higher stage. Taking the option we have for for refurbishment of Fairfield will give us the opportunity to have the facilities fully accessible in the quickest possible time, allowing our cultural offer to again become the pride of South London. In a time when we are seeing significant drives to grow out of London's cultural offer in areas such as Barking, it is even more integral that Croydon is able to compete. Looking at the success of such refurbishments as at the Royal Festival Halls and at the Lyric Hammersmith, there is so much that can be achieved. With a wider focus on phasing, and I understand why some may call for this option, in this time of austerity and need for financial prudence, it surprises me the opposition is calling for another £5 million or so to be spent on this option, which would still require the building to be fully closed for a period. Are they magicking up money again? The proposal strikes me as another BWH, and we all know how well they project manage those costs. Phasing is not the best option for the venue, nor is it the best option for our town. Last time I visited the venue was for the farewell tour of that famous tragic comedy, Mayor's Question Times. However, Madam Mayor, I understand that your own comedy night was a far better evening for a far better mayor. I look forward to the reopening of the new refurbished Fairfield and the day it hosts the new Mayor of London, when it's reopened in 2 years. Unlike the opposition, we are putting plans in place to grow Croydon's culture. We are working to repair the damage that they inflicted. Only this administration will deliver on Fairfield and put Croydon well and truly back on the map.
Can I remind members of the public? I now call upon Councillor Dudley Mead to speak. You have no more than 3 minutes.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. When the local newspapers describe you as a vintage councillor, it's time to go. So this is my swan song from the front bench. And I'm very proud of the fact that I'll be talking about Fairfield on that. And I just ask the Labour councillors opposite just once for the last time, think again about having a phased closure. It's so important that this town doesn't lose that splendid facility across the road. Now, I'm not really expecting, Councillor Godfrey, you to change your mind, so I'm going to concentrate on the consequences of closure in July, although I must say I would have thought in commercial terms it would have been far better, at the very least, if you waited until the end of the pantomime after Christmas, because that is the most cost-effective and the most incoming, most sensible place to stop when you've maximised your income in any year. But let's talk about being pragmatic in relation to what goes on during the closure. There are 54 years of Croydon heritage in that building, from an autograph from Elton John and many other the famous pop stars of the 60s, 70s and 80s, to, at the other hand, a £3 million unique organ. Now, I say £3 million because I've ascertained that's the replacement value of it. And I'm very pleased to see Councillor Godfrey's answer to my question about looking after the fixtures and fittings. So I fully expect the Council to engage Messrs Harrison and Harrison, who are world-class organ builders who built that organ, and to instruct them to maintain it whilst the refurbishment work is going on. Because believe me, you will never replace it. I lament the fact that in order to bring Fairfield to a tidy close, such things as the pianos are being sold. The concert grand was paid for by public subscription in this town. Quite a few people in this chamber made substantial contributions to it. And I lament the fact that it's being sold off in order to pay creditors. Now, the other great asset that you have in relation to that is the concert hall itself. Simon Rattle, probably the world's best conductor, and if you don't know who he is, he's the guy that did the Olympics with Mr Bean as his percussionist in 2012. He said in the Times in May 2014, Fairfield is the finest concert hall in England, and he meant it. So you've really got to look after that. Now, closing and reopening is not a clever thing to do. Birmingham did it with a theatre, and they just said it took them 7 years to get their audience back. Guildford closed one of their halls, and it took them 9 years to get it open again. And I'm bound to say that without planning permission, without detailed plans, I cannot believe it will reopen in 2 years' time. I will trust the fact it will reopen one day, but it won't be in 2 years' time, because by the very nature of it, if it were to be doing so, you'll be booking people now and you're not keeping any of the staff. So please think again, because otherwise this is corporate vandalism.
Councillor Mead. I now call on Councillor Tim Pollard to speak. You have no more than 3 minutes.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. In concluding this debate for the opposition, I'd like first to thank the organisers of the Save Our Fairfield campaign, who've worked tirelessly to raise public awareness of the risks this council is taking in its refurbishment plans. The people who've organised this are not Tories. Many are normally Labour voters. Others are politically neutral. They're just good people who want to safeguard a much-loved local asset. And over 11,000 of them have signed one of the 2 petitions asking this council to change its mind about how it's going to refurbish Fairfield. And that's the point at issue. Nobody is opposed to the refurbishment of Fairfield. It's 50 years old, and clearly it needs refurbishment if it's to remain the star in our cultural offering. The previous Conservative administration was committed to the expenditure of £33 million to fund it, so before Councillor Godfrey again tweets, "Tories don't support Fairfield refurb," that's not true. But we do believe that in its obstinacy and arrogance, the Labour Council is taking a huge gamble with the venue's future. And it's not just us who think so. I can think of nobody, no other group, no prominent individuals, nobody except the 40 Labour councillors in this room who think they're going about this in the right way. So I talked about risks. What risks is the council taking? It's closing the venue before it has planning permission, an operator for the reopened venue, any clarity about where the money is going to come from. Well, why does that matter? Because if anything goes wrong, and it will, because it always does, the planned 2-year closure could drag out and out. The second risk it's taking is in closing all of the halls, apparently to save money, and not phasing the work so that the venue can stay pretty much open throughout. It's taking an enormous risk, because the audience will find other ways to entertain itself, and it'll take years to get them back. Councillor Meads talked about Birmingham Hippodrome. You've actually only got to look at the car park outside Fairfield to see that. It used to be full. Councillor Newman decided it was untidy and he didn't want it there anymore. Now it's back, but it's back at half the level because those people moved away. They found other places to park their car, and it will be the same with the users of Fairfield. And the council's redesigning a building without knowing who'll run it, what they want to stage there, what their business requirements are. What the council knows about running an arts centre could be written on a postage stamp. So they'll get it wrong and they'll waste money hand over fist. Councillor Newman keeps telling us that the new Fairfield will be Croydon's South Bank Centre. I think in his head he really believes it. There are a few minor differences, though. The South Bank gets public subsidy to the tune of 15 million and is on the London Tourist Trail. He's proposing a subsidy of 0. So we need less spin and a good dose of practicality instead. Let's get this right. Let's get Fairfield refurbished, but let's do it in phases so that our young people can carry on using it throughout and the audience doesn't drift away. And then we wouldn't have to make the staff redundant or disband the corps of volunteers or subsidise it again to the tune of millions of pounds as the new Fairfield tries to build audiences back up again. Madam Mayor, I completely support the 11,000 residents
Councillor,
who
can you
want the
wind
council
up?
to change its mind on this.
I now call on Councillor Alison Butler to speak. You have no more than 3 minutes.
Thank you. I'd like to join Councillor Godfrey in commending the passion of those who have signed the petition and come along to the meeting this evening. We want to harness this energy to ensure that when the halls reopen in 2018, we have a great modernised building fit for the next...
Councillors are going to be allowed to speak a little bit longer if we have more disturbances. We've been very fair with everybody else, and I know there are going to be no exceptions tonight. It just means that other business will be impacted. Could you proceed, Councillor?
Okay. We have a great modernised building fit for the next 50 years, which can be enjoyed by all. As the new administration in 2014, one of our main objectives was to ensure that culture was placed at the heart of our regeneration plans for the borough. We know that the culture celebrated in our town comes from every corner of our borough, but we also recognise that the modernisation of Fairfield Halls is right at the heart of what Croydon can offer. However, the ambitious scheme for College Green is not only about safeguarding the future of the halls, but also about transforming the area into a thriving, mixed-use place where people will want to live, work and play. The aim is very much to set the highest quality example for others to follow. Over the last year, we've had a team of excellent people drawing up these exciting new plans, which will not only complement the regeneration happening across Croydon, but also create an area we can celebrate as a destination in itself. This will be an area that all of Croydon can be proud of. As many will be aware, the development takes a phased approach, and in addition to the works to Fairfield Halls to be delivered over the next 2 years, we will see huge changes to College Green. A place that was walked around will soon be the place to be. There is not many things in this borough more important than the education of our young people, and the Council has also been working very closely with Croydon College on plans that will see a new state-of-the-art college and potentially a university facility that will meet the needs not only now but for future years to come. In a changing world, this will ensure that Central Croydon has a fit-for-purpose facility that addresses the further and higher educational needs of our young people. We also know of the desperate need for housing in the borough, and we will see the creation of nearly 200 new homes on College Green, a quarter of which will be family homes. Alongside this, we will revive the existing public realm to create a vibrant new public space which can be enjoyed by both residents and visitors. This administration is passionate about both culture and education, two of the things that will take our town forward and offer new opportunities to all our residents. Through this exciting programme of work, we aim to transform Central Croydon, starting with the modernisation of Fairfield Halls. And from having pounded the doorsteps, from knocking on doors in Croydon, we know people are excited about this project, and what they want us to do is get on and do it, get on and deliver. They have great enthusiasm for this scheme, and we will ensure it's delivered. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. The debate's now concluded and the petition received. We now take a vote.
Sorry, Madam Mayor, could you just clarify what exactly we're voting on? Because it isn't really very clear.
So, if I can clarify, you're clarifying on you have a petition of wording. The wording, I'll read it out for clarity again. That Croydon Council reverse its current plans to close Fairfield Halls and instead work toward a phased development which will keep this important landmark open to the community and prevent the loss of valuable jobs at the venue. So those in support of that petition motion would say aye. Those against that petition motion would say no.
Those in favour? Those against? No. The noes have it. Members of the public, can I remind you once more? Members of the public, this is your last warning. Thank you very much. We now proceed to public question time. I'm going to read out. I believe some members of the gallery may wish to leave, so I will allow a few minutes for you to do so. If you do wish to stay, by all means, please do so. We'll have a 5-minute break. Agenda item 9, public question time. I shall ask if individuals are here and then I will ask if they wish to actually present a supplementary question. Mr. Alan Corline. Is Mr. Alan Corline present? Right. Mr. Peter Collier.
Yes, Madam Mayor.
Would you like to present a supplementary, Peter?
I've got a couple of supplementaries, if I may, please. Thank
You
very
may
much.
proceed.
Right. First of all, Dan, I'd like to thank Councillor Timothy Godfrey for his answer. Listening to tonight's debate on Fairfield Halls down there, instead of putting them away for 2 years plus down there, what about putting them up at the plaques, etc., at in BW House, for a better word, so they can still be on public show? But that's a comment that he'll have to take on board. My first supplementary is, I was over in Arnhem a couple of years ago, and I found it very, very interesting, because I also saw various sites like the bridge that was called John Frost Bridge down there one way or another, and I expect you did. Concerning that, for a better word, I also found out that we have a Croydon Square in Arnhem. And my comment when I came back here, because I was able to attend the, shall we say, the Croydon Arnhem meeting, that it would be nice if we had an Arnhem Square, which I'm hoping that was minuted, and if you want to check it out, Lee Goddard will be able to verify that for you. Lastly, and the third one is, I used to attend these meetings one way or another, and for some reason or other I was shut out. So my third supplementary question is, can I go back to these meetings and attend just purely as an observer? Thank you. That's all I have to ask.
Thank you very much, Madam Mayor. Very grateful for the question, because it does highlight the whole ethos of the development. The refurbishment is a heritage-led one, so looking after those plaques is actually very important to us. And I will take back to the museums team here and our new culture czar the issue of where we can put them on temporary display over the next 2 years. But they definitely are. It's something we can look forward. In terms of road naming, that issue has been already noted, and so it is with the road naming officer. But we already have Arnhem Drive, and of course the Arnhem Bridge. There's a plaque on the Arnhem Bridge that outside the Fairfield Halls as well. And of course the Arnhem Gallery. So we will take the suggestion forward as you propose.
Thank you, Mr. Collier. Is Anne Greenhead here? It's Greenhead. Is Anne Greenhead here? Okay. Right. Is Mr. Robert Ward here? Mr. Robert Ward, would you like to present a supplementary?
Thanks very much for the response. It's very helpful. It's very much in line with what was achieved by other councils in terms of landlord licensing and getting the cash in the door, and very much in line with the plan. And that's very good news that the money's coming in, but we don't spend money, I hope, just to spend money. It's supposed to deliver some value and to improve the lives of the people of Croydon. So my supplementary is, please can you tell me what it is, how you will be monitoring whether the selective landlord licensing will be successful or not, what parameters are you measuring, and will any of these be made available to the public? Thank you.
Councillor Butler, would you like to respond?
Thank you, and thank you for your question, Mr. Ward. I think some of the issues we have placed in the councillors' questions, that some questions have also been asked about landlord licensing, but there's a number of ways we'll actually be assessing this, and I think one of the things that we very first noticed was that when we actually set up the scheme and many landlords went to register, they didn't have their gas safety certificates. So the first thing was achieved by so many properties that didn't in the past have now got gas safety certificates, and I would have to say that was a legal requirement before the licensing scheme came in. So that's one way. We've also issued a number of improvement notices. We're out there working on the properties that are coming forward, and so those improvement notices are also going to count. Issues around dealing with antisocial behaviour, poorly maintained gardens, and so on, disruption to neighbours, inadequate bin supplies, that kind of thing will all be taken into account. And in fact, we've just sent out today formally to all councillors that from May you'll be able to go onto Croydon's website, tell whether a property is on the landlord's licence scheme or not, report it if it's not and you've got concerns about it, and also directly report any issues relating to that property.
Thank you, Councillor. Mr Ward, would you like to present a second question? Right. Mr Cartwright, are you here today?
Yes, good evening, councillors.
Polite. Would you like to present your supplementary?
Yes, bearing in mind the fact that at the meeting of the licensing subcommittee on Friday the 15th of April, which was here in the council chamber 3 days ago, Sergeant Mick Emery, Chief Inspector Peter McGarry and their barrister James Rankin individually and collectively denied telling the manager of the Dice Bar not to play certain types of music. They denied telling him not to let in black people, and they claimed to have seen CCTV evidence of a man holding a knife who supposedly had been inside the Dice Bar earlier, even though they have not provided or supplied any photographic evidence of that claim. Does the Cabinet member agree with my opinion that all three of them were telling a pack of lies?
Thank you.
Councillor Watson, thank you.
Thank you for the question. Look, a number of things were said at the meeting, and we have met with the Borough Commander this morning. I think there have been some allegations in the press. I think it's for the police to answer those allegations. And I think if people put in complaints, I think there is a formal process which the police will answer those allegations. It's not for me to comment on those until, at the moment they are just allegations. I think we have to wait to see what the process is, see if the police to investigate that and take a cue from there.
Thank you. And secondly...
Councillor... thank you, Councillor. Would you like to present your second question?
Secondly, will the council advise the police that if they, the police, perceive that there is a problem with crime and antisocial behaviour in the High Street, whether that's in the vicinity of Dice Bar or indeed elsewhere, then it is more likely to be because of the police's own aggressive and confrontational attitude rather than having anything to do with the excellent and exemplary management inside the Dice Bar? Thank you.
Councillor Watson.
Thank you. I think it is fair to say there are different views on how we can police the nighttime economy. My view, very much, is that as many young people go out, many more people go out and enjoy the nighttime economy, most of those do that without any trouble at all. There is issues for the police to deal with, and I think the police do a good job in dealing with those issues. But I think we have to get to a position where the licensees, the police and the council are back round the table and finding a way that we can all create the vibrant, diverse nighttime economy that we want in Croydon.
Thank you, Mr Cartwright. Mr Colin Weaving, are you present? And Mr Mark Samuel, are you present? Would you like to present your supplementary?
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and thank you for your services over the year. I would also just at this time like to thank the good job of the licensing subcommittee on Friday for saving a business who was otherwise going to be stopped. Moving on to regeneration, to the Leader of the Council, at East Croydon, I looked at the website again today and there wasn't much of an update there. I thank you for what you said in your written reply. You've had £2 million back from Skanska because of the ineptitude. It's been mentioned before. Can't we have some of that money put into a tourist office and some staff, please?
Thank Samuel for his question. I mean, look, to be honest, there's a difference of view. So we got the folk out there doing a brilliant job as ambassadors now in terms of working with the tourists. There's an awful lot of stuff online.
And one would not want to say we would never have a tourist office back. But it is, as we see, significant, and mercifully onward ingoing investment into the borough, a judgment about where we put that and how we do it. So I'm not saying, and it's not necessarily for me to solely say, it's discussions with the BID and others. But there could be a role for some sort of a tourist office in the future. But I think the success really will be about not just an office, but how we communicate in many, many different ways with the growing number of tourists coming to the borough.
Mr Samuel, thank you very much for your endorsement. Do you have a second supplementary?
Endorsement? Do have a second supplementary. Can we have an update from the leader about the website's inability to be updated? I mean, thankfully he's given me some sort of written reply, but it seems another exercise in a waste of time and taxpayers' money when I looked at it this afternoon, Tony, and it hadn't been updated. The West Croydon one had, but the East Croydon one hadn't. What's the point of that?
Councillor Newman.
Well, websites, I share your view, are as only good as how constantly they're refreshed. So I'll have a little look online myself later, and hopefully we'll see something rapidly happen in the morning if it needs it.
I believe there are no more public questions. So that concludes our public question time. Thank you, members of the public, for attending. And you're all welcome to stay. But if you are leaving, please do so quietly. Agenda item 10. Petitions to be presented by councillors to the Council on behalf of the people of Croydon. Chief Executive.
Councillors requested to stand when their names are called and read out a summary of their petitions. Mayoral staff will collect the petitions. Please wait until the Mayor has called your name before speaking and hand in your petition. The responses to these will be open to questions at the next ordinary council meeting.
Councillor Amida Ali.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I have 3 petitions that I'm putting forward on behalf of local residents. 2 relate to the introduction of controlled parking, one from the residents of Enmore Avenue, the other from residents of Denmark Road, and the 3rd petition relates to asking the Council to plant trees along the length of Alfred Road.
Thank you, Councillor Ali. Councillor Simon Brew.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I have a petition from the residents of Montpelier Road, Purley, who would like something done about speed calming in their street. Thank you.
Councillor Pat Clowder.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I have a petition from the residents of Norfolk Road asking for a one-way system round that particular area. Thank you.
Councillor Stuart King.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I have a petition signed by just over 100 residents of Cecil Road in my ward calling on one-way working and the introduction of controlled parking.
Councillor Vidi Mohan.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I've got a petition signed by a majority of parents, teachers and governors of Archbishop Tennyson School who are extremely angry at Councillor B's unfair parking policy. There has been a 220% increase in parking charges in the local area without consultation. This has led to a huge detrimental effect on the school's finances as the school pays for teachers' parking, and the school believe they've been treated in a shockingly poor manner, and they ask the council to reconsider their decision. Thank you.
Councillor Andy Strannock.
I have a petition here from residents of Belfield and Woodpecker Mountain, Forestdale, who are asking for their recycling facilities to be reinstated. They've had perfectly adequate recycling facilities for 4 years, but their bins have disappeared over the last few months. And they're saying to me that they feel that the Environmental Services Department is falling apart.
Councillor Mario Criatura.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. To support our local economies, our district centres will offer free parking for the first hour. This will not only make shopping easier for residents, but will also support our local traders in difficult times. These words can be found On page 15 of Labour's Ambitious for Croydon manifesto, I have a petition with 878 calls and residents' signatures asking for the council to abide by their manifesto and drop their plans to cut parking to half an hour.
Thank you all for handing in your petitions. I'm now moving on to agenda item 11. Responses to petitions presented to Council on behalf of the people of Croydon. Chief Executive.
The reply to petitions presented to the Council on 25th of January 2016 are printed in the agenda.
Do the Cabinet members have anything to add to your responses? Councillor B.
I have nothing to add.
Thank you. Thank you, Councillor B. Moving on to agenda item number 12, motions for debate. The first motion of this meeting presented or proposed by Councillor Tony Newman and seconded by Councillor Amida Ali. Chief Executive, will you please read the motion?
The motion is, this Council believes that the continuing economic success of Croydon in terms of delivering ongoing growth, inward investment and local jobs for Croydon residents is best secured by the UK remaining a member of the European Union.
I now call on Councillor Newman to propose the motion. You've no more than 3 minutes. Councillor Ali, will you second the motion?
Yes, Madam Mayor, I second the motion and reserve my right to speak.
Councillor Newman.
Thank you very much indeed, Madam Mayor. Croydon, Madam Mayor, with this Labour administration, is now London's growth borough. Thousands of new homes being or about to be built, Body Shop, Westfield Hammerson's, Her Majesty's Tax and Revenue, Stanhope Schroeder, Hermes, Box Park, Rise Gallery and so many others now investing in Croydon, invested in the future, invested in quality jobs and training for this generation and future generations to come. On June the 23rd, all of that is at risk. The very best that we could expect after a no vote would be years of economic turbulence and uncertainty, and at worst it could tip us back into recession. Madam Mayor, according to the CBI, 95% of business leaders believe EU membership is a key part of London's economic success, and that means Croydon's success. But let's be clear. Nobody is saying the EU is perfect. Nobody is saying the EU should not continue to reform and modernise. But what we are saying in terms of security, protecting the rights of working people, continuing to secure the peace in Europe and protecting jobs and growth is that the UK is a better place for being in the EU and being able to influence its future development rather than outside and having to just accept the decisions of our European neighbours. And Madam Mayor, the case for remaining in the EU is being led by the Prime Minister and the party leader of members opposite, supported by your Chancellor. It is a case that unites in its desired outcome Jeremy Corbyn, David Cameron, Neil Kinnock, Paddy Ashdown, Sadiq Khan, Nicola Sturgeon and many more. It is a case that unites the trade unions and the CBI, a case that Alan Johnson MP made so passionately when he was recently speaking in Croydon, and a case, I'm delighted to say, supported by all three of Croydon's MPs across the political divide, who we will be putting party allegiances aside to work with in terms of the campaign to remain in Europe, something I've agreed this evening before this meeting with Gavin Barwell. Madam Mayor, as London's growth borough, it is important Croydon's voice is heard. It is important the residents of Croydon, all of whom have a vote on June the 23rd, hear the economic arguments for a yes vote. And it is important, as our local MPs have done, that as politicians, we also make our voices heard. So I would urge members opposite who do not support this, who do support this motion to back it and ensure we send the clearest possible message from this chamber tonight. And that message is that protecting the hard-won rights of working people in Croydon matters. That protecting ongoing investment and growth for Croydon and growth to come for future generations matters. That securing a safe and secure Croydon matters. Madam Mayor, it is now time on this issue to put party politics aside, put London, the country and Croydon first. I move the motion.
I understand there's an amendment to the motion. Councillor Pelly, will you please move the motion you've put forward? You've no more than 3 minutes.
Madam Mayor, if there's an amendment, I think we need to hear about it, because my understanding was there was some confusion over it earlier. In fact, the wording of what I saw completely removes the meaning of the motion that I've just put forward.
Yeah, there is no confusion over the amended motion. The amended motion is fine as worded, and I'll read this out after Councillor Perry has presented.
Councillor Perry.
Thank you very much, Madam Mayor. Yes, there has been some debate tonight around this particular motion, and it's with disappointment that I stand to speak to this motion tonight. I proposed an amendment to this motion that has been refused by this council. And my amended motion should have read, this council believes that the continuing economic success of Croydon in terms of delivering ongoing growth, inward investment and local jobs for Croydon residents is best secured by a competent local authority working in conjunction with national and regional government, whether the UK remains a member of the European Union or not. That was my amendment that I put forward, not the incoherent amendment that we find on the papers tonight. And for Councillor Newman just to stand up and say that he's going to put party politics aside when he can't even allow this Conservative group to make an amendment to a motion really does show what he truly
Madam
believes
Mayor,
in this town.
I really must, as a point of order. Madam Mayor, it is not, it is right, no, Madam Mayor, it is not my decision. I've had nothing to do with that decision, no say in it. And I need that made.
Councillor Perry, can you just turn off your mic just for a moment?
Can I just clarify for this chamber what has happened this evening? There has been a proposed amendment to the motion that came forward from the group to my right to officers of this council. Officers of this council confirmed what amendment could be received, and that has been done. If we are going to debate the amended motion that has been just presented, that will be ruled out on the basis it is a fundamental change to the original motion, a fundamental change, and that does not qualify for an amended motion. There is an amended motion which we have agreed, and I have just agreed this with the opposition leader, that we would debate the amended motion as received by officers. If there is no wish to debate that motion, you can withdraw that motion and we can debate the original motion. So there is an amended motion in the wording, which is what I will read out now. This council believes that the continuing economic success of Croydon in terms of delivering ongoing growth, inward investment and local jobs for Croydon residents is best secured by a competent local authority working in conjunction with national and regional government. The UK remains as a member of the European Union.
Councillor Perry, if you're prepared to proceed on that, then please do so.
Madam Mayor, I'm quite happy to proceed if people would stop interrupting me. I mean, the Chief Exec has just read out that incoherent amended motion that's been put forward. That's not the motion, that's not the amendment we put forward, it's not the amendment I put forward, and that is why I've said that I'm disappointed that the amendment we put forward has not been allowed. Apparently my amendment negates the subject of debate, which is absolutely ridiculous. My sole desire was to bring the debate back onto local issues that we actually have influence over in this town hall and are of interest to the people of Croydon. Why it is that this Labour Council cannot allow the Conservative group to put forward an amendment to a motion is beyond me. Why are you scared to talk about the issues that really matter to the people of Croydon? This is not the action of an open and transparent Labour Council. It is a dictatorship and it is censorship. The changes made to our amendment have made it pointless and illiterate, as the Chief Executive has just demonstrated. How can I possibly speak to an amendment that I did not put forward? Our group
will take no further part in this censored debate tonight and will abstain on the vote. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Moving forward, Councillor Mohan, I understand that you will that you will second the amendment.
I think, Madam Mayor, Councillor Perry has made our position very clear, and I stick to that.
I now call on Councillor King to speak.
Yeah. Thank you, Madam Mayor. I would like to take this opportunity to speak about Croydon's future inside the European Union. Madam Mayor, 2 years ago, this administration was elected on a manifesto that was ambitious for Croydon. That ambition is not only for the Croydon of today, but also for the Croydon of tomorrow. In 2 short years, we have made great strides as we've persuaded business and investors of Croydon's potential. In the next 15 years, Croydon will deliver a £5.25 billion regeneration programme, creating 9,000 new homes and 23,000 new jobs. As we've heard from the leader, Box Park Croydon arrives later this summer. Commuters at East Croydon see daily the progress being made at Ruskin Square. Madam Mayor, Croydon is going places. But our town's future prosperity is not guaranteed. A British withdrawal from the European Union would damage London's economy and in so doing damage Croydon's economy. Madam Mayor, as Richard Plant, Chairman of Develop Croydon, has said, anything that hurts London hurts Croydon. Indeed, as the Conservative government itself acknowledges, voting to leave the European Union would create years of uncertainty and potential economic disruption. This would reduce investment and cost jobs. That's the assessment of this country's government. Our Prime Minister, our Chancellor, perfectly clear about the consequences for Brexit. And British business backs this view. That's why a clear majority of CBI members believe that it would be in the best interests of their business and the wider economy for this country to remain inside the EU. The EU is by far the UK's biggest trading partner. EU countries buy 44% of everything that we sell abroad. Remaining inside the EU guarantees Croydon companies full access to the single market and over 500 million customers. The single market also makes it cheaper and easier for Croydon companies to sell their goods outside the UK, boosting profits and creating jobs here at the same time. Madam Mayor, I'm passionate about our borough's future and I'm an optimist. So I'm confident that Croydon's bright future is assured however the public vote on the 23rd of June. But a decision by this country to leave the EU would apply the brakes to Croydon's regeneration. It's inconceivable that Brexit wouldn't have a negative impact on the commercial and financial renewal of our borough. So on the 23rd of June, I hope Croydon residents will consider not only what is best for their families, but also what is best for the future prosperity of Croydon, the town that they and we call home. Thank you, Madam.
I call on Councillor Kadir to speak. You have no more than 3 minutes.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I am also not speaking.
I call on Councillor Mohan to speak. You have no more than 3 minutes.
Absolutely clear, Madam Mayor, and so has Councillor Perry. We are not speaking.
I call on Councillor Ali to speak. You have no more than 3 minutes.
Madam Mayor. Madam Mayor, thank you. Like Councillors Newman and King, I'm also pleased to have this opportunity to add my voice to this debate on the administration's motion, focused on a hugely significant constitutional question for our country at a time when residents across the borough are deliberating on how they will use their vote in the referendum in the coming weeks. And I wanted to focus on what membership of the EU has meant for all Croydon residents in their workplaces, a concrete example of the impact of the EU here in Croydon day in and day out. Paid holiday, daily and weekly rest breaks, equal pay, maternity rights, parental leave and anti-discrimination law. These are all rights at work that we share. They benefit and they protect us all. And indeed, they're so familiar to us that we've almost started to take them for granted, perhaps not always recognising that their origin does derive from our membership of the EU. A message relevant to every single woman in this borough, in what we all know has been a considerably male-dominated debate, is that our rights at work in terms of equal pay, in terms of maternity rights and sex discrimination protections have all either been introduced or enhanced through our membership of the EU, making staying in heavily in the interests of 51% of the population on those grounds alone. The UK's relationship with the EU in this respect has been reciprocal. We have both led Europe on aspects of equality law, race and disability in particular, where our laws have very much set the standard for the rest of the continent. In other areas, we've been asked by Europe to step up. In 1983, our equal pay legislation was challenged by the European Commission because it did not contain the critical principle of equal work for equal value, a principle which has since formed the basis of countless cases in the UK, benefiting and recompensing women across the country. So what, you might ask, now that these rights are enshrined in our statute, what difference does it make? Because these rights that protect us all are all on the ballot paper on the 23rd of June. Leaving the EU will put all these protections at risk because they will be dependent on the government's whim to keep them, a government that's already on record as saying they would cut back workers' rights given half the chance. So what has taken almost 60 years to evolve could be wiped out in a few nights' work in the House of Commons. Tonight, the opposition has declined the opportunity to achieve a brief consensus in this chamber. Instead, they have put party before country in the context of a debate which was about something bigger, a serious constitutional question for our member. And perhaps, Madam Mayor, that is no surprise, given that the reality that for the government this referendum is less about membership of the EU than it is the state of right-wing party politics in the UK. Madam Mayor, I'm hopeful that the country chooses interdependence over isolationism, collaboration over withdrawal and negotiation over seclusion. Contrary to much of what we're hearing across the airwaves, active participation in the EU has enhanced the rights of every one of us. It underpins Croydon's economic ambition and it has maintained peace on the continent. I support the administration's motion.
I'm now putting the amendment to the vote. Those in favour, please say aye. Those against, please say no. The amendment to the motion. The amendment to the motion is lost. I now put the original motion to the vote. Those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Those against, please say no. The ayes have it. The second motion of this meeting, proposed by Councillor Lynn Hale and seconded by Councillor Chris White. Chief Executive, will you please read the motion?
The motion is, this council believes that Croydon's libraries should be kept as centres of books and learning and not turned into bookish gyms or bookish cafes as they have been in Labour Lambeth. It also believes that library branches should be run by professional staff and librarians and not run by volunteers alone.
I now call on Councillor Hale to propose the motion. You have no more than 3 minutes.
Love Libraries is in serious doubt as the Council launches its consultation seeking to find volunteers to run them and putting at great risk the professional library services which our communities so value. Whilst a categorical assurance has been given that no library will close, the fact is, whilst they may indeed be staying open, residents may not recognise them as the centres of literature, literacy and learning, which they always have been, and relying on rotas of well-meaning volunteers is neither acceptable nor sustainable. The Council is clearly enamoured with the way that Lambeth manages its library service, using Upper Norwood Library as a shining example. But the truth is, despite some fantastic work being put in by local volunteers, it has been struggling financially to run in its new community set-up arrangement. Dedicated trustees describe their frustration with endless meetings trying to get some sort of financial settlement, which is openly described as shoddy, and it appears that their trust will now run as a self-service facility within a community hub. If this is the way Croydon also intends going, we can only assume that our libraries will also become community hubs in the future, with active gyms and cafes fronting the buildings and the literature and literacy core service diminished. But do we really want to be quietly contemplating pieces of great literature or researching projects next to people sweating and grunting on gym equipment? Boxercise among the Brontes? Spinning with Shakespeare? I think not. And do we really want to be offering crisps and coke to young people from cafe outlets, distracting them from their homework and learning? I think not. Libraries are not a luxury. They're both levellers, aiding community cohesion, and spurs of social mobility. A sanctuary for the vulnerable, offering essential facilities to children and young people, many of whom are in temporary accommodation in our borough and do not have access at home to the space to learn quietly, accessing the treasure troves of resource and information which our libraries offer. Libraries build citizens, they educate individuals, and they foster thoughtful communities. People may go to the library looking for information, but they find each other there. New mums connect at baby story times. People of all ages attend events and find they make new friends. Teenagers meet up in libraries after school, and readers discuss current events. We should preserve the professional library services, keeping literature and literacy in the forefront of our libraries, protecting these vital services for future generations. Great authors, not gyms. Computers, not cafes. Literature and imagination. Local libraries, not community hubs. I'm proposing our motion.
Councillor Wright, will you second the motion?
Second, Madam Mayor, and reserve the right to speak at a later date.
I understand there's an amendment to this motion. Councillor Godfrey, will you please move the motion, the amendment, I should say, and you have no more than 3 minutes.
Thank you very much, Madam Mayor. I move the amended motion as it seeks to reassure residents that we are committed to all of our libraries. We have just launched a short survey to which I would encourage all residents to fill in at www.croydon.gov.uk/ambitious for libraries. Now in opposition, we see the Tories embrace any and every issue in an attempt to sound like they care for culture and arts in the borough. Out goes talk about book tokens being a better solution than buildings, and in comes demands to protect qualified librarians. Out goes any memory of closing the mobile library service, and in comes fake concerns about the Upper Norwood Library, the library that if they had won the last election, they would have walked away from. Out goes any attempt to involve communities. Even their comrades in Bromley are seeking community-run libraries. And in comes the demand for a library service funded as if the Tory government wasn't slashing and burning local government. As these words from Bromley's Tory-run council make clear, the council has to identify £50 million of savings over the next 4 years from a net budget of around £199 million, so it is inevitable that some services will have to be provided in different ways into the future. So, like every council in the country, we are looking at how to do things differently too. We are looking at how to invest in the things that a modern library offer must provide, and doing that by starting to ask residents what they want and asking organisations if they could step up and help get more from our library buildings. What we won't be doing is closing any libraries. What we will be doing is investing in our library service in different ways. We really must invest more in the book fund, and we must invest more in study areas and computing. The opposition have no drive and ambition for our libraries. All they do is rack up expensive promises safe in the land of opposition. This council administration will not wash its hands of the library service as the last Tory council tried to do. We regard our library service as a core service that impacts so many residents at different life stages. Given our borough's demographic profile, it is no surprise that half of our library users are children, yet our child and youth offer is lacking. We have an ambition that it should be amongst the best in the country. Each library in its local community is not the same. We want libraries to reflect their local communities and their local communities' needs. So just like on the Fairfield Halls, we see crocodile tears, but no budget amendments from the Tory opposition, no proposals from the opposition that can help this borough to do things differently, to once again quote Bromley's Tory council. Illusionary promises of money for our libraries, illusionary promises of money for the Fairfield, all at a time when their Tory chums in Westminster are avoiding tax and cutting local government in such a savage way. Madam Mayor, I support the amended motion on this Labour administration, as this Labour administration cares passionately about our libraries in every part of the borough.
I call upon Councillor Letts. I understand that you will second the amendment.
Yes, Madam Mayor, I would like to speak to the amendment. In seconding the amendment, I have yet to hear from Councillor Hale and members opposite how they would go around about keeping our libraries open when the government has cut this council's funding. You know as well as I do that by 2019-2020, this council's budget will have been cut by 74%. And a spend per head in this borough is not as high as neighbouring boroughs. For example, we are paid £378 per head, while in Southwark it's £637 and indeed £586 in Lambeth. And you've already heard from the Cabinet member that, in fact, we are out to public consultation and engagement, including an online survey and focus groups. And the information coming from those groups will be gathered and will contribute to an ambition for a libraries plan, Madam Mayor. Some might actually question the need for libraries in the wake of e-readers and technology and on-the-go with handsets, mobile phones, etc. But the people that I speak to will have far more vision than that. They want survival of our libraries. They want something more than books. I don't know about gyms, but they certainly want more than books. They want libraries to be in a community setting where people can gather together in their social time. And, Councillor Hale, I have to tell you, there are people who do want coffee and books. Instead of closing libraries, this Labour Council will work with agencies such as the Job Centre Plus, the NHS, the Volunteer Bureau, local businesses and indeed paid staff to deliver access to skills, career workshops, job hunting, parenting skills, Madam Mayor, learning a new language, painting, pottery, chess, the history of Croydon, and we will organise walks around our historic Croydon and beyond. Recently, when I spoke with an older people's group, they suggested a small cafe featuring seating areas for group study or quiet conversation. Maybe a book club, they suggested, that would foster friendships between people of all ages, managed perhaps and operated by volunteers. That's what volunteers will do. And what about a shopping component? Subject to space, of course, a gift shop featuring new authors with signings, art, pottery, T-shirts, tote bags and Croydon souvenirs. Now, this could be set up, Madam Mayor, as a social enterprise or indeed by a young or not so young entrepreneur. We could also host local artist works with touring exhibitions at each library. Libraries are a social meeting place, Madam Mayor, where everyone should be welcomed and feel welcomed, whether they are met by a paid employee, a volunteer or a work experience person. Today, solid, reassuring presence of civic libraries is threatened by this government, which is beyond comprehension.
Councillor Letts, can you wind up, please?
Libraries are loved, and we have seen a rash of closures across the country by cash-stricken local authorities, which has prompted an outrage of a kind only witnessed by a closure of hospital.
Councillor Letts, I'm going to have to ask you to stop.
Libraries are the heartbeat of sustaining a modern democracy and a showcase for learning and living, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Letts, for your contribution. I believe that our Chief Executive will actually read the motion now, though.
So the proposed amendment to the motion is: this council welcomes the administration's public library engagement and believes libraries should be centres of books and learning. It also believes libraries should be supported by professional staff and librarians and not run by volunteers alone.
The amended motion has been circulated. The debate has started. I will now proceed on to Councillor O'Connell to speak. You have no more than 3 minutes.
Madam Mayor, I rise to support our original motion, and I do so in the spirit of believing what is right for our residents, young and old, in their access of knowledge through a full-time library offering, which is an essential part of having an educated and literate population, to encourage literacy, open to all, a place of quiet study and reflection, not, Councillor Letts, a pottery shop, to borrow books, to take home and feast on knowledge. These are not outmoded notions. Enlightened politicians in the mid-19th century brought to bear Public Libraries Act 1850, free access to people, all people, to improve their knowledge. Now, this is a fair debate tonight about two different attitudes and views of how to deliver a library service. Notwithstanding other boroughs, I'm not bothered about what other boroughs wish to do. And I understand the financial pressures that the administration is facing. We also had to face those pressures, and we worked on library solutions which weren't universally applauded, but did deliver a full-time library service supported by full-time librarians, because the start and end point from our attitude is a full library service with full-time librarian and a full book service with full, of course, internet access. The proposal for consultation does have a strength in the fact that it appealed to the good-natured volunteers, and Croydon is chock full of good-natured, wonderful people who volunteer their time. But the weakness is, of course, it will not be backed full-time by professional staff, just will have some professional staff perhaps to lean back on when they need to, which is contrary to how the library service was brought to bear all those years ago. So as much as we welcome support for community spaces, often much needed, we cannot support sacrificing the traditional much-loved libraries and full-time library services on the altar of a community space. A building with a cafe, a dance space, a pottery shop, a meeting hall with a few books staffed at the back, with the occasional visit by a librarian, is not, in my judgment, a library. This affects the whole borough, which I am delighted to represent as GLA member, going from Norbury to Upper Norwood to Shirley to Coulston, 13 libraries. And we are in danger of disenfranchising a borough-wide generation of young people from the wonders of a full librarian book service. I think this proposal is not malicious, evil, or anything like that, and I'd rather it wasn't party political, which it, of course, as ever, has turned into, but just ill-advised and not thought through. I don't think we should be necessarily bashing each other all over it, but listening to what people out there want and expect, and thinking back to that more enlightened age. There doesn't seem to be a lot of enlightenment over here at the moment, when, in the 19th century, a free, professional, full-time library service was a great good. So combine the tradition of a free, professional library service with the wonder of the internet age in our buildings, and you have the service our people expect. Please do reconsider, and I fully support our unamended motion. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
I now call on Councillor Shafi Khan to speak. You have no more than 3 minutes.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. A recent BBC investigation has revealed that 350 libraries have closed and almost 8,000 jobs in UK libraries have disappeared in 6 years since Chancellor George Osborne unveiled the biggest UK spending cuts. Over the same period, some 15,500 volunteers have been recruited under the banner of Big Society. Libraries are facing what is said to be the greatest crisis in their history since David Cameron became Prime Minister. Remember Ed Vasey, what he said? Library, using volunteers in library is not a disaster, I quote. It's not a failure of the library service, it's an opportunity, unquote. It seems to me the Tory motion is against the policy of their own minister responsible for libraries. Is the current situation facing libraries a crisis or an opportunity? I suppose the answer depends on who you are. If your library funding has been cut by the central government, resulting in reduced opening hours, reduced book fund, reduced maintenance, and reduced staffing, or closed, as we have seen in Croydon, it's a crisis. If you are poor, with young kids, isolated, vulnerable, elderly, and or disabled, and you are housebound or your mobile service has been cut, as we have seen in Croydon under the Tory administration, it's a crisis. If you are a library worker whose health is suffering due to stress and short staffing, or you have been made redundant, as we have seen in Croydon under the Tory administration, it's a crisis. On the other hand, if you are a Tory or a greedy privatizer, then the current situation is one big opportunity. An opportunity to commercialize, the opportunity to privatize. And we have seen that in Croydon through outsourcing our library services to Carillion. And even the contract awarded by the Tories bar us using the unused first floor of Norbury Library for community access and use. We saw Croydon Tories attack local communities and the public services they rely on. There was an attempt to close more libraries just a few years ago. Thanks to the support of our local residents, we successfully fought against the closure of Norbury Library. We saved our right to reading, knowledge, information, community empowerment, resilience, and democratic involvement. Madam Mayor, we want and we need local libraries adequately funded by the central government and managed by council and run by paid and trained staff in consultation with and for the benefit of all. That is why we are consulting. We are really trying to be attuned to the needs of customers above and beyond books. I would advise them to go and visit idea stores in town hamlets, then they will realize what our visions are. Anyway, members opposite, join us to demand that the central government ceases its attack on public services in the name of austerity and
Councillor Khan, can you wind up, please?
Gives libraries a long-term future by funding it fairly, and I support the amended motion. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
I call on Councillor Wright to speak. You have no more than 3 minutes.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The library service, I believe, is summed up in 2 words, duty and expectation. Duty in the form of the local authority and Croydon Council, duty to provide a library service which is enshrined in Section 7 of the 1964 Act. And that, as you will see, said that will provide a comprehensive and efficient library service for all persons. That's the duty of the local government and the duty of this council. Expectation is from the people of this borough and the people generally in the country that a library will provide a service which they are used to, which they are proud of and which they respect. A library which provides books and tapes or whatever, but provides a service for the people of this borough. In 2011, I chaired a meeting, local meeting, in a local church, which was full to capacity with well over 100 people. And Councillor Bashford, that was the first of Councillor Bashford's meetings around the borough. The overwhelming majority of that meeting and of subsequent meetings was that members of the public wanted libraries to remain as they are. They wanted libraries to provide a service with trained, efficient, well-qualified officers. And that was what they wanted, and that is what was left in place. That was a meeting very well attended, and we came away with that very firm resolution. And the same thing happened. I also attended another meeting at Broad Green, and that was exactly the same thing happened. I remember a young girl standing up at Broad Green and saying quite passionately that she wanted the libraries to remain as they were, and she wanted a place to do her homework because she had no facilities at home to do that. That is what the libraries are provided. This is a great service that has been provided by this borough. And I wonder why Councillor Godfrey has not had meetings that week that Councillor Bashford had up and down. If he did, he would hear the public say quite clearly and quite distinctly that libraries should remain as they are, providing the service that they are, and not perhaps going into other ways of gyms, coffee shops, whatever. They are libraries to provide culture, and that is what it is. So, if Councillor Godfrey will perhaps start up meetings around the borough, he will hear that. If he hides behind this consultancy online thing, which a lot of members of the public find difficulty in downloading,
Councillor Wright, will you wind up, please?
That is what Councillor Godfrey should need to do. Go out and talk to the public, because he'll hear that message. Thank you.
I'm now putting the amendments to the vote. Those in favour say aye. Aye. Those against say no. The ayes have it. I'm now putting the motion as amended to the vote. Those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Those against, please say no. The ayes have it. Agenda item number 13. I'm going to repeat that just once more. Agenda. Can I ask that...
Madam Mayor, as a point of order... I think we voted on the amendment twice. We didn't vote on our original motion.
So can I just clarify what you did in the chamber? So having debated the amended motion, the first vote that you're putting to is to accept the amendment to the motion. That was voted, and that was one. Then the amended motion is then put to the vote. That was put to the vote, and that was one.
I think that should be the end of the discussion. Let's move on so we can get more time to ask questions. Agenda item number 13. To receive the business report of the Leader and Cabinet Member and Councillors' written questions to Cabinet Members. Chief Executive.
Councillors may ask no more than 2 questions on each item of business contained in the business report, and may also ask 2 supplementary questions arising from the reply given to a written question they have submitted. Up to 20 minutes may be spent on questions to the Leader, which will include 4 minutes for any announcements, and up to 10 minutes to each Cabinet Member, which will include up to 2 minutes for announcements. Each Cabinet Member may use their allocation of 2 minutes for announcements, even if there is no time for further questions before the end of this meeting.
Councillor Newman, do you move the business report?
I move the business report, yes, Madam Mayor.
Councillor Butler, do you second the motion?
I second the report, Madam Mayor.
Councillor Newman, do you have anything that you wish to add? You have no more than 4 minutes.
Nothing to add or nothing to update the Council on, Madam Mayor. I did that earlier.
Are there any questions for Councillor? Can I stop? Councillor Pollard. Councillor Pollard? No? No questions. Councillor Pollard. Councillor Thomas.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. CQ 192. Now, once again, Councillor Newman tonight has not answered the question. The question I asked him was perfectly reasonable question, asking him why he would not attend any public meetings. Now, since I've been on this council, not one leader has ever failed to attend a public meeting. Now, Councillor Newman has been asked to attend 2 in the last couple of months. Could he tell us tonight why he's afraid to attend public meetings?
Councillor Newman.
I just need to ensure that we've not made a mistake that we'll get accused of doing something. Just to clarify, Madam Mayor, the Leader of the Opposition, having had nothing to say on 2 debate motions, has got no questions to the Leader of the Council. Is that correct? Quite extraordinary. Councillor Thomas, really, I think there's a diary published here, but actually it was only, where are we now? It's Monday. Thursday night I was addressing a public meeting where there was 150 people over at the conference centre with the Royal Society of Arts talking about what this administration is doing in terms of delivering culture and art and regeneration, as Councillor Godfrey so eloquently said tonight. And I think my diary would show numerous public meetings. But I'll make the judgment on which public meetings I attend, not you.
Councillor Thomas.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Well, I think that actually summed it up, didn't he? That he's actually afraid to go out there. Wherever there's a problem, Councillor Newman backs away. Now, we heard about my ward colleague attending meetings on the libraries. She wasn't afraid to go out there, knowing when we looked at the libraries, she was going to get a lot of hassle. Now, there are two meetings that Councillor Newman has shied away from, the one in Shirley on planning issues and the one on Fairfield Halls. Why is he too chicken to turn up for these meetings?
Councillor Newman.
Madam Mayor, as I've said, I think my diary will show numerous public meetings, but to hear the label chicken tonight from the side that's failed to vote on 2 motions to this council on the issue of Europe that will have such an impact on the people as this town has had nothing to say, on the debate about libraries has had nothing to say, I simply think anybody left watching this will make their own judgments. But the sound of silence from the Tories in Croydon tonight has been deafening. The failure of leadership by Councillor Pollard has been stunning.
Councillor Audley.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and thank you, Councillor Newman, for your response to CQ 26616. Let me kick us off with a genuinely important question, a question about our response to the refugee crisis, arguably the greatest humanitarian crisis since World War II. Now, recently, Barnet, Lewisham, Lambeth, Kingston, Southwark, Camden have all committed to settle 50 refugees. Will you, in principle, commit to do the same?
Yeah, we made it absolutely clear that in terms of the refugees in this borough, that we will stand alongside all colleagues at London councils. In fact, I think we've had that discussion with others as well. And I'm saying that tonight in view of the very helpful news I alluded to earlier from James Brokenshire, the Minister, because as the borough with the Home Office right at the heart of it, and we welcome the jobs and the commitment from all of those that work there, but we absolutely need to understand that the funding's in place across this entire agenda. But our commitment is there, and I thank Councillor Audley for his question and the work I know he does in this area as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor
Audley.
Sorry, thank you, Madam Mayor, and thank you, Councillor Newman, for your strong and committed response. Obviously, in your response to my written question, you alluded to the funding difficulties that we have as a borough in this area and the greater support that we do need. So, will you now work with other council leaders to continue your pressure on the Home Office to provide that support and that resource that we do need to provide the welcome for refugees? Thank you.
Councillor Newman.
Yeah, absolutely. And we're not only doing that at London councils, but we're also doing that across the LGA, the London, the National Association for Local Government, and we're working very much on a cross-party basis there in terms of lobbying government, and with some success, but a way to go yet.
Councillor Hale.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. CQ 20916, I thank the leader for his answer. Councillor Newman, you did commit to sharing the Mott MacDonald report, so I just wondered why you changed your mind.
Councillor Newman.
Thank you very much. Well, I think, as I've already said, I think in a previous discussion we've had, no project that I've seen in this town has had a greater openness and transparency than what's planned at the Fairfield. Indeed, the scrutiny event that Councillor Sean Fitzsimons oversaw specifically on this had huge chunks of that report as part of its debate, along with much other input as well. But there are areas of commercial sensitivity that we need to respect. But I would stand this administration's transparency in terms of how we're taking forward that project, and ask anybody that saw the secrecy that shrouded your plans for incinerators in the borough or new council headquarters, and I think we'll stand up our procedures against anything we saw from the side opposite.
Councillor Hale.
Well, I do think that's rather disappointing, because when you said you'd share it, you didn't say about actually would only be a couple of redacted pages that actually don't make any sense whatsoever, taken out of context. So I do find it extremely disappointing, because it's actually extraordinarily relevant to the major decision you've made to close Fairfield and not phase it.
Councillor Newman.
Well, you've heard what I've said on the report, but you've also had very strong advice from officials of this council, and they've absolutely, I respect the advice we've given there. And in terms of, and I recognise the role you played in terms of representing those with concerns over the Fairfield we had earlier. But I think, if I could roughly quote the chair of the Fairfield board from last week, the debate over the phasing of the Fairfield is something we now need to move on from, and rapidly work together in terms of turning around in rapid time the delivery of the new Fairfield.
Councillor Pelling.
Thank you very much, Madam Mayor. CQ 184 regarding the leader's very busy diary, where I can see that he is much more full-time than previous Conservative leaders used to be, where we regarded Friday mornings as being the key time to be in the Town Hall. Can I ask him, amongst his very busy diary, I see that he refers to the EFRA air quality inquiry. I've been very impressed by the very positive remarks that the leader's been making about the importance of protecting air quality within Croydon, and I'd like to ask him why it is that he feels that this is an important subject for this authority.
Councillor Newman.
Yeah, thank you very much, Madam Mayor. Quite how those previous leaders managed to do it all on a Friday morning, we'll never know, but perhaps that might reflect some of the decisions they took. In terms of the air quality, and I thank Councillor Pelling for this, and I think the ward he represents, is at the front line of this issue, if you like. I think this is the huge challenge now facing both this borough and London. It was sadly on the day I was giving evidence to that parliamentary select committee, where, ironically but sadly, London and Croydon had the worst air quality readings it had received in many years on that actual day. I think this is a very pertinent time to raise this issue, because it's very clear that Labour's candidate for the mayoral election, Sadiq Khan, takes this issue very seriously indeed, and is committed to being something that he will lead an agenda on in partnership with us. So there is much more I still think we can do as a council to address the issue, but if we're going to be honest, the only way we can move to address the issue on a sustainable basis is with a London-wide solution. So I think it's a well-timed question, and the moment now is very much to take that forward.
Councillor Pelling.
Madam Mayor, further to the leader's diary, quite a lot of people come to visit the leader here in the Town Hall, and when you sign in on the table at the entrance to the Town Hall, you can quite often see names of previous visitors to the leader and to others. It's a very useful source of information for local bloggers and journalists, but also, it's fair to say, sometimes, or more importantly perhaps, It is a matter of concern if you have competing contractors visiting who can see who else might be bidding for a contract, or indeed those people who come to see us as councillors with very private matters of concern. Is there a way of us running a system when you sign in at the town hall that we can secure the names of the people who visit, but others cannot see the names of those people who have attended?
Councillor Newman.
Well, I think there's a very potentially serious point, as I know the councillors are raising there in that question, and I would, much as we want transparency in all we do, one might better take it perhaps a little far. So we're about to relet, if that's the word, retender the facilities management. We've got the new bids in, if you like, and I think there is an opportunity to look at that particular anomaly, because much as we like to keep all local bloggers informed, one can go a little bit too far in this area.
Councillor Creatura.
Thank you very much, Madam Mayor. In the spirit of not being totally open and transparent, Councillor Newman, I sent you an email in March, almost a month ago, asking for access to a paper about the Lyme Green Road development. We were told just after Christmas by officers that the reason why the scheme collapsed was because of this one paper, which said that construction costs increased and there were issues with the land costs. We have not seen this paper. We have only the word of officers. And I asked you if you would mind, in the interest of openness and transparency, committing to releasing the paper. Would you mind letting me see it in the interest of my residents so I can do my job as a councillor?
Councillor Newman.
I think the councillor, who's still relatively new, might want to reflect on what the phrase we just heard, only the word of officers, when we've seen the word of officers tonight challenged in terms of amendments that came into this council, and the wording was there, and that's something we may return to in the future. I mean, we'll have another look at this. I don't want to get into a situation vis-à-vis what I've just discussed with Councillor Hale there, but there is no reason I would imagine that I'm aware of for you not to see that paper, and it's frankly another Tory mess that we're in the business of sorting out.
Councillor Creatura.
Thank you very much for that commitment to look at allowing me to have access to that paper. It's a very important issue for my residents. On the same subject, a leaflet was sent out in my ward by the local Labour Party in Coulsdon, saying that the council was supportive of building housing on the Lyme Green Road site. Can you confirm that is the policy of your administration, as it says in black and white on this leaflet?
Councillor Newman.
Well, I think it's clear to us from the feedback we're getting. I don't think I'm giving too many secrets away to say that there is a huge swing to Labour taking place in the south of the borough as we run into the GLA elections. In fact, I think look, Madam Mayor, I don't mind Councillor Pollard, but the idea I'm being heckled by the Leader of the Opposition when he's given up his opportunity to ask me any questions is quite extraordinary. I mean, either stop the heckling or stand up and at least front something up tonight. But, Councillor O'Connell himself has alluded to the fact that if he gets in at the election, he thinks it could well be under 1,000. I think he's on the record for that. So we've seen the O'Connell vote collapsing from 33,000 to under 1,000, and it's precisely because Labour is standing up for the people in the south of the borough in terms of delivering the car park, looking at how we can put some houses down there where we can, but absolutely in terms of that Pacific site, it's still out to consultation.
Councillor Chowdhury.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Can I congratulate our leader first in the success of Gateway program, which is really a great, helpful and really successful program. Of course, the Universal Credit rolling out the full scale in Croydon. So there will be a lot of, I think this service needs to be expanded. I think there will be more funding available. Do you think it will be available for expansion to support all the Croydon residents as we are doing at the moment?
Councillor Newman.
I thank Councillor Chowdhury for his question, and no, absolutely, we want to expand that, but that's part of that sort of transformation in terms of a move to digital, to generate some of the savings to reinvest back into that service, because unfortunately, for reasons that others have already touched on this evening, the Chancellor seems determined to, albeit at a slightly slower rate, keep up the cuts agenda in terms of local government. So we will continue to drive that for two reasons. It is the best service for the people of this borough, and it will hopefully free up savings to invest back into that vital service.
Councillor Chowdhury. Councillor Fisher.
Thank you very much, Madam Mayor. At the last GPAC meeting, Madam Mayor, we received a report on the Council's risk register, and I was surprised, I think as were my colleagues, to find that officers had identified that the greatest risk on that register was the ability of Councillor Newman and his Cabinet colleagues to competently manage the budget of the largest department in this Council, the People's Department. So I just wondered if Councillor Newman could tell me who he thinks the risk is. Is it him? Is it his finance member, Councillor Hall, or is it the hapless Councillor Woodley?
Councillor Newman.
Well, as Councillor Fisher well knows, that's not what it said, and I would have thought the greatest risk was allowing you anywhere near the safe, Mike, in terms of... but that's a risk we've nailed down, and I'm glad to see and very much took the opportunity to welcome Councillor Cummins in terms of the election that took place last week. But we're taking no lectures from the side opposite. We've delivering a balanced budget again this year. We've kept council tax affordable, and I think the residents of this borough will make those judgments. In fact, it may be a good moment to share. It's a letter I've had from the Woodfields in South Croydon, and very much builds on the theme we were having earlier in terms of Councillor O'Connell's majority. Somebody called Marcus, I won't read the surname name, but dear Councillor Tony Newman, just a short letter of appreciation for the Council, striving to keep and improve and extend the quality of services provided by Croydon Council in these difficult times. Of course, there are different views on what should or should not be done, but it's impossible to satisfy all of us. However, I am happy that the council tax has not been unduly increased. Thank you all. Councillor Fisher, I doubt if you ever received any such letter.
Councillor Fisher.
Thank you very much, Madam Mayor. I can assure Councillor Newman that I've received many more letters talking about the fact that we actually reduced council tax, Councillor Newman, something which you've never done and will never manage to do. But isn't it an indictment, Madam Mayor, on this administration that one of the biggest risks identified is the ability of Councillor Newman and his colleagues to manage the budget? What does that say about the competency of this administration, Madam Mayor?
Councillor Fisher knows once again he's misleading the chamber. Of course it's legitimate that we have to have an eye on the budget, but I think we'll be judged on the record. You didn't actually reduce the council tax, by the way, Mike. It went up. Let's get the facts correct. More misinformation. I think the issue of trust on the side opposite, if it wasn't near the floor, after this evening's shambolic display with no opinions, nothing to say, no votes, I don't think the people of Croydon are going to be listening, and I think they'll be voting perhaps along the lines I suggested earlier. From Upper Norwood right through to Kenley, there's a red tide sweeping Croydon.
Councillor Bashford.
Thank you. Your mention of Upper Norwood was very timely. Thank you for my answer to question CQ 212. With regards to Upper Norwood Library, could Councillor Newman explain what his plans are for the archives? There is concern that they'll be split up. So can you please provide details of your plans for the archives and reassure people that they will remain as one collection? Thank you.
Councillor Newman.
So we're absolutely committed to the archive service. Indeed, Councillor Godfrey has taken an extraordinary interest personally in making sure that those archives are protected, and it's part of the commitment this administration gave when we said we would invest in and protect the Upper Norwood Library. That's what we've done. We've got a trust up there that has huge support, and the archives are an absolute priority. I give you that assurance. In terms of more detail and process, Councillor Godfrey will, I'm sure, happily write or meet with you to update you. But absolute commitment, and I recognise your genuine concern there and share it, but we're on top of it.
Councillor Bashford.
My concern is that they're not split, because it is an area that has a very distinctive character, and I think it's hugely important for people there that they remain as one collection. Although you didn't answer that part of the question, you also didn't answer the question that my colleague asked you. So I am going to ask that again on his behalf, so you can answer, because I'm sure you want to be open and transparent. And that is the Labour group going to support building houses on the Lime Green site?
Councillor Newman.
We're genuinely looking at various options on that site, but I mean, I would put it to you that would you oppose any housing in the south of Croydon, affordable housing for local people if they wanted it? I don't know. We are looking at all options, but it's great that Mario's now got his own spokesperson to ask questions for him. Perhaps, because actually, you know, very good questions. Perhaps you could take that up on behalf of Councillor Pollard, who clearly isn't able to answer any himself.
As time is now out, I'm now moving on to questions for
Madam Mayor,
Councillor.
if I may, it is a point of clarification. I did signal earlier, and I think it's only fair to respond to Councillor Newman's comments towards myself. I'm within a purdah period, so I must be careful what I say. But as you brought up the subject of the GLA election, I think it's worth responding. I think it's absolutely right I should do so. So first of all, I would contradict any accusation.
Councillor.
Am I allowed to speak? I'm in a purdah period. So I rebut. All I would say is I rebut.
Councillor O'Connell, please, would you sit down?
And au contraire, the blue momentum is heading for the
Councillor
south. To the
O'Connell,
north.
would you please sit down? Councillor Lewis, do you wish to speak?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Given the amount of business left on the agenda this evening, now that the leader has received questions from members, can I propose that we to move a procedural motion to move on to the next item of business?
Do we have somebody who's going to? Do we have somebody who's going to second that?
I'm happy to second that, Madam Mayor.
But we do need announcements.
Madam Mayor, we've got another 15 minutes before we need to move on. Yeah. What's the hurry? Does anyone want to answer any questions? No.
As time is very short, we need to put it to the vote. Could we say those in favour, please say aye. I'm going to make sure that's recorded. Can you say aye? Those against, please say no. No. The ayes have it. As time is now short, let us move forward to the next. It is announcements. Councillor Shafi Khan, do you have any announcements?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. As you are aware that today is our National Offer Day for the reception and junior applicants, and I'm pleased to announce that 100% of our parents and carers applied online, and the number I have, which is 85% applicant got first preferences, and it is 3% more than the last year. And we have already written to every single parent and carer who didn't get their first preference, and they will get the letter tomorrow, and which is, I understand, a very small number. Thank you.
Councillor Timothy Godfrey, do you have any announcement or anything to add? You have no more than 2 minutes. Councillor Cathy B, do you have any announcements or anything to add? You have no more than 2 minutes.
Nothing to add, Madam Mayor.
Councillor Mark Watson, do you have anything to add? You have no more than 2 minutes.
Nothing to add, Madam Mayor.
Councillor Tony Letts, do you have anything to add? You have no more than 2 minutes. Councillor Stewart Collins.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I have an announcement, and that is I'd like to inform members of the public watching this evening that the excellent hard work of our enforcement officers in our battle against criminal fly tippers has appeared tonight on the BBC One show, and that if anybody has been watching the whole meeting tonight, they can catch up on that on the iPlayer. And my second announcement is that Garden Waste Service first day, we've collected over 1,000 bins, and I'm delighted to say that there's only been one missed collection, which we have rectified. So I think it's a very good start to the service. Thank you.
Councillor Simon Hall.
I just wanted to highlight the fact that at the LGC Awards, Croydon, as lead for the South London SEN Partnership, won an award for the incredible service they do on procurement of SEN places.
Councillor Louisa Woodley.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'd just like to inform the Council that the Croydon Shared Lives team was rated, the service was rated as outstanding by the CQC. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Councillor Margaret Mead.
Yes, I wish to record our congratulations on that outstanding vote. But can I ask the Cabinet Member, can you sleep at night with the high risk of overspend in your department?
Councillor Woodley, I'm going to have to move on. Councillor Butler, do you have anything to add?
Madam Mayor, I don't have anything to add, but I wonder if I could take this opportunity to say a few words to the opposition member, Councillor Dudley Mead. Dudley, and I know it's not a secret, Dudley has told us this will be the last evening he's sitting on the opposition bench to us. And I'd actually like to... Well, not on the opposition front bench. Sorry, Dudley. Sorry. Come on, Dudley. Yeah. And we've been on both sides over a number of years, and decades, yeah. And I truly think that Dudley has at heart the best for people in Croydon under housing. We haven't always agreed, but I think sometimes we've agreed more often than we've disagreed. So I think that Dudley will be a loss in that position for the Conservatives, and I wish him well in the future. And I'm sure he will still heckle me from the back.
Madam Mayor, very briefly, can I thank Councillor
Very rare I get the opportunity to clap with everybody else. Yes, of course you may.
I'm not leaving the Council. I'm certainly not joining the Labour Party. I'm actually going to go on to the backbenches, but I would actually say to Councillor Butler, yes, I have respect. We have mutual respect for each other. We do disagree from time to time. And I think, frankly, if I may just say, I think there should be more relationships in this Council on that basis, where you argue professionally and disagree, rather than, frankly, I've seen party politics, and I'm sorry to say it, over the last 36 years, creeping more and more into it, rather than for the good of Croydon.
As all questions have been taken, time limits actually reaching to a... Yes, we've almost exceeded. I'd like to... Yes, just bear with... Yeah, I'm went. Okay. Right. Does the Council agree the business report? Those in favour, please say aye. Those against, please say no. The ayes have it. Agenda item 14, Councillors' open ward sessions on behalf of local communities. Chief Executive.
Councillors may speak for up to 3 minutes on any matter which affects their ward.
I now call on Councillor Canning to speak. You have no more, and on Wadden Ward, you have no more than 3 minutes.
Thank you very much, Madam Mayor. It's always a privilege to speak about Wadden Ward. Tonight I'm going to speak about air quality. That's an issue that affects not just Wadden, but the whole of Croydon. And that's the air that we breathe, not the hot air from Boris Johnson about extending the tram to Crystal Palace. In fact, Sadiq Khan, who was in Wadden Ward a week ago tonight, has said that cleaning up London's air is our most pressing environmental challenge. And the leader said the same thing earlier this evening. And I couldn't agree more. Research shows that poor air quality plays a part in killing around 9,500 Londoners a year, with many more suffering breathing-related illnesses. In Wadden, Purley Way is one of the most polluted roads, and we must do more to improve air quality in this part of Croydon. Under the Conservatives, Croydon published an Air Quality Action Plan for 2012 to 2017. It had much to commend it. But the irony is not lost on the residents of Wadden that at the same time the Tories were voting to build an incinerator at Beddington Lane, despite a 2010 election pledge never to support one in Croydon or on its borders. Concerns have also been raised about the contract to build this incinerator and the donations that Viridor made ahead of Southern Council granting planning permission. These concerns can be read online, no, not just on Inside Croydon, but on the Sutton Conservatives website. So it's no wonder that there have been calls for an investigation. Since winning the 2014 election, this Labour Council has given added impetus to Croydon's Air Quality Action Plan. It's great to see Croydon Council working closely with Transport for London to improve traffic flows around five ways. New cycle parking facilities have been launched. Croydon's Car Club membership is up 30% since March 2014. And December 2014 saw the first pure electric buses in Croydon, although I've no idea if Sadat's dad ever got to drive an electric bus. Croydon has recently been successful in winning funding for new charging points for electric vehicles, and we're looking at opportunities to establish a freight consolidation centre. This would see goods transferred from lorries to electric vans for the last leg of the journey, and a site on or near to Purley Way could offer an ideal location. And Councillor Pelling would never forgive me if I didn't mention that a park and ride site is also worth investigating. But to build on our good work in Wadden and in Croydon, London needs a mayor who will deliver. Air quality in Wadden depends on mayor quality in City Hall, and I look forward to seeing a big improvement in both after the 5th of May. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
I now call upon Councillor Bottinger to speak regarding Kenley Ward. You have no more than 3 minutes.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Kenley Ward is a beautiful place to live. We have rolling hills and lovely countryside, plenty of space for good walks on the downs. We also have some great views, some superb views of the best buildings in the City of London, as well as in Canary Wharf. We also have some very caring people living in Kenley who help to keep Kenley pleasant and welcoming for everyone. Volunteers and residents groups help to keep the litter down. They help with protecting our historic airfield. They help with managing the woods. They've even recently been developing a pond with log seats and a table. This has to become a big success, especially with young families. However, we are a very green ward with a large number of trees, and when the weather is stormy, some of the branches break off. We want our branches cleared and our trees cleared in a timely manner, just like any other ward, and this has not been happening sufficiently in Kenley recently. Again, many of us have generous-sized gardens, and we really appreciate the free garden waste collections provided by the last Conservative Council. Even now, when we have to pay for the collections under this Labour administration, many of us have invested in our bins and hope for a good service. It's meant to start today, but this morning we had still not been advised where our collections will be and when. My residents are not happy when checking on the internet site and just reading dates unavailable, because that happened this morning. Residents are saying, look how inefficient this Labour administration has become. And do you know, I think they could be right.
I now call upon Councillor Avis to speak regarding South Norwood Ward. You have no more than 3 minutes.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. But before I start telling you about the many delights of South Norwood, I would like to state, contrary to some opinion, that there is no correlation or link between me moving out of South Norwood and house prices in South Norwood having rocketed by 16%. My life is embedded in South Norwood, not just because I am one of its councillors, but mainly because it has so much to offer. You will find excellent restaurants, Yeha Noha, brilliant homely run restaurant by Norwood Junction. We have the Montana restaurant, according to Time Out, the best Thai restaurant in the south. And the Arctic Group are just about to open a gastric pub in our high street. It is fantastic what's happening there. We don't just have one festival in South Norwood, we have 3. We have the South Norwood Arts Festival, we have the South Norwood Community Festival, and we have Westow Park Festival, all run by intrepid, incredible community leaders. We have 4 community gardens. Again, those community people are out there working hard to transfer or transport the lives of South Norwood people into havens of beautiful gardens that were once derelict, flighted private land. We have a market, an incredible market, outside Aldi's. It is run by the incomparable Rose and Rachel. They are amazing community workers who have created a market that is slightly different, slightly quirky, and you must visit. Of course, I have to mention the Stanley Halls. It's been taken over by the community, and it's just going from strength to strength. And I would recommend to you to come and have a visit and see the resident theatre group. They are excellent, but so much is happening. Please look up them on your website. And while you're there, visit the little quirky coffee shop next door, Coffee Craft. An amazing cup of coffee you will receive. And what about the £1.5 million of regeneration money? I won't mention the millions and millions that went into Coulston and Purley, why South Norwood languished, but now we have an in-house team that is making such incredible changes to South Norwood. We are moving forward. I want to lastly mention the tourist board. Yes, South Norwood has a tourist board. Look them up on the site as well. But I want to tell you about our flag. The flag that the tourist board has devised has cross scissors in the middle and 2 proud chickens at each side. Apparently this is to denote our many barber shops and our many fried chicken shops. I am telling South Norwood Tourist Board now, change the flag. We need a new one. We're going forward and moving up. Thank you so much.
I now call on Councillor Creatura to speak. You have no more than 3 minutes.
Thank you very much, Madam Mayor. It's a pleasure, as always, to be given the opportunity to speak about my ward, Coulston West, but frankly I would rather have spent some more time scrutinising the front bench's portfolios. As a member of the Scrutiny Committee, I think that's slightly more important than me saying how wonderful, obviously, my ward is. But, as I'm here, early this evening, the Council will notice that I presented a petition concerning a subject close to the heart of many of my residents, parking. 878 signatures on a petition calling on the Council to honour their manifesto pledge and keep 1 hour's free parking in district centres. In total, over 1,000 residents in Coulston have contacted the Council on this issue alone. One wrote to me saying, residents are increasingly faced with broken promises given by politicians. It's time these failures by these elected individuals supposedly representing us are made accountable in the public eye and by the electorate. Now, Madam Mayor, this is not the only comment in this vein, and I would implore that, for the sake of the reputation of all of us who try to work hard for the interests of our residents, that in future, if we make promises, try to keep them. And you have a chance now to do that when the meeting comes up when it goes to traffic management next week. But in a similar vein, residents and councillors heard me earlier asking the council leader why he didn't reply to my email a month ago. And in the interest of transparency and openness, it's great to hear that he's committed to looking at it, and he sees no reason why I shouldn't have access to a report that is so vital to the future of my ward. I want to pay tribute to the excellent incumbent GLA member and the MP for Croydon South, Chris Philp, who helped us to open the Lion Green Road site, along with my councillor colleagues in Coulsdon West and in Coulsdon East. After a lot of digging and months of obfuscation, we did learn that the reason why the scheme collapsed was because of this one report received 2 days before Christmas by the council. I have an email from Waitrose saying they have no idea why the scheme collapsed. Apparently they were ready and raring to go. So why the failure? Well, apparently it's the construction costs, but we think there may be another reason, and this leaflet that's been going out in my ward implies that the Labour administration here want to review the application and they want to build housing in Coulsdon. I'm sure that will go down well. The leaflet says this. It's written in black and white. By 2040, the GLA estimates that Coulsdon West's population will increase by 40%, the third highest increase in population in the entire borough. If you think we need more housing, my residents will approve of that, given that we have taken bulge classes, GP surgeries are struggling, and the roads are constantly jammed with traffic. And I think you may have another thing coming. The leader of the council said previously that he thinks my residents are from a bygone age because they care about their facilities. It is a slightly disgraceful comment. Those living in Coulsdon and Purley are fiercely loyal, and I will always fight for what's best for their community. In summary, Madam Mayor, I will finish with one comment that was on the petition on hoping that Labour will keep their manifesto pledge. The comment says, "This current Croydon Council appears to be intent not on providing any services of benefit to Croydon residents who live in the south of the borough. As a resident of the south of the borough and an active voter, I shall ensure they are not returned next time. Enough is enough, they cannot be trusted." I really hope, Madam Mayor, that this resident is wrong and they change their mind in future. Thank you very much.
I now call on Councillor Lewis to speak. You have no more than 3 minutes to talk on New Addington Ward.
Madam Mayor, thank you for calling me to speak on ward matters in New Addington. I'm grateful for the opportunity to update the Council once again. Croydon Labour believes in New Addington and is investing in it. Fantastic proposals for a new leisure and community centre have been warmly received by residents. I was pleased that the hard work of this administration received positive comments from all members of the Planning Committee recently, and I thank them for their contributions. I look forward to the forthcoming second round of engagements with residents on it later this week. The tram is great for New Addington, and it would be great for other areas of the borough too. We have often been promised extensions to the tram network that would allow for easier travel to and from New Addington, only for those promises to be broken by a GLA member and the Mayor of London. How badly they have been let down by their current Tory representatives, how much better they could be served following the elections on May the 5th. New Addington does have further issues with TfL, Madam Mayor, whether it's a bus consultation that has failed to listen to the views of local residents or poor service from operators. Residents of New Addington will hope that whoever is the next Mayor of London, they will seek to work more closely with communities in determining and implementing transport decisions. And of course, Madam Mayor, at a time when the financial conduct of the Tory Prime Minister is called into question over shady tax dealings, the people of New Addington are asking, can we trust the Tories? Well, they certainly can't trust their current GLA member. We know that he wanted in on the secret deal that saw his disgraced former leader secretly pocketing thousands of pounds of taxpayers' cash behind the backs of New Addington residents, only relenting at the 11th hour.
Councillor Lewis, can I just remind you, you are in a purge period? keep the reference to the GLA to a minimum, please.
Yeah, I'll thank the Chief Executive for the reminder, and I'll remind everyone that it was the GLA member who first mentioned the GLA in tonight's meeting. But I will retract my comments, Chief Executive, and I hope we can make progress, Madam Mayor. Thank you. Look, we don't know whether Councillor O'Connell was backing an unlikely comeback for Councillor Fisher this week. Whether he did or not, we know there is something at the rotten at the core of the minority group to make such a return even a possibility.
Can those on the opposite bench be quiet? Give you a bit more time. Go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And, you know, look, this all adds insult to injury at a time when, you know, the police on our streets are being cut, police stations are being closed down throughout the borough, and now safer neighbourhood bases are shutting too. The Tory Mayor and Mopac have a lot to answer for. But, Madam Mayor, it has been a pleasure to update the Council on ward matters in New Addington, in what has been a final ward matters speech during your time as Mayor.
Councillor. Yeah. Can you sit down? Well. Okay. Agenda item 15, Annual Scrutiny Report 2015-16 and Scrutiny Business Report. Chief Executive.
The overall time allocated for this item is 30 minutes. The Chair of the Scrutiny Overview Committee and the Chair of each Scrutiny Subcommittee will introduce and answer questions on the report. Any councillor, except the seconder of the report, may ask the Chair, Deputy or Vice Chair as appropriate no more than 2 questions on each paragraph of the report. In the event that any part of this report has not been reached when the 30 minutes have expired, the report shall be taken as read and put immediately to the vote.
Councillor Fitzsimmons. I keep doing this. We have this wonderful relationship, so I know that I'm definitely forgiven. Councillor, before we start rumours, would you like to actually move the annual scrutiny report?
I move the annual scrutiny report, Madam Mayor, and I should point out that it took about a year to feed my wife when she got it wrong. But she relented in the end. Okay. Madam Mayor, I welcome the opportunity to present this report of the last year's work carried out by the various scrutiny committees and of all the non-executive councillors of both sides. To be effective, scrutiny needs to show that it makes a difference and isn't just a talking shop. And it can show that it can make a difference. And it does this by the following. Are we holding decision makers to account? These decision makers can be within the council or external to the council, such as the police or the health service. Have we given a voice to those affected by the decision, especially those voices who are more likely to be disregarded, such as the young and the marginalised? Have we helped the public understand why or how decisions are made? Difficult and unpopular decisions are part and parcel of local government. But do we have the full facts to make a judgment? Because if we councillors don't, then for certain the public won't either. Have we investigated, researched and suggested new strategies, policies and procedures? We have a particularly strong role in pre-decision scrutiny, which means that we can make suggestions at the early stage where there is a chance for them to be implemented. And finally, although all decisions can be seen through a political lens, have we conducted our scrutiny in a non-partisan manner? And some would say that we have struggled with this the most. So, to answer those questions, have we held the executive to account? Last year, the leader came twice to scrutiny and all cabinet members came at least once, and a few came more. We also had a number of call-in of major decisions, such as Fairfield Halls and 20-mile-an-hour limits. Did we give a voice to the many people and groups across Croydon? if you look at the page 4 of the report, you will see that over 60 different organisations and groups have given evidence, plus numerous local residents and service users.
Excuse me, Councillor. I've just appreciated where the no's coming from. It's nice of you, but if it's said again, I will ask you to be removed from the chamber. Would you please continue?
Section 104, you have the right to remove disruptive members, and these two gentlemen have been disrupted for the last year or so. So I would certainly support their removal. Question 3, whether we have helped the public understand how and why decisions are made. I believe we have. I'm sure that those who take the opposing line's decision the Council or the Health Service has made may disagree, and this is complicated by rules regarding commercial confidentialities, which we've heard about tonight, and there are those who believe that there should be no Part B items. But I can hope we can assure you that we have pushed for as much disclosure as the law allows. Have we helped suggest new policies or alter existing ones for the better? The local newspapers have been dominated by stories about the nighttime economy recently, about its decline, the effects of licensing and the action of the police. It was noticeable that it was scrutinising that timetable, their review of the nighttime economy. We did this over a year ago, which shows how local councillors of both sides, who are also local residents, can sometimes be way ahead of the curve, including the press, when it comes to spotting what are the real issues and concerns to residents and businesses. And have we been non-party political? Sadly, I feel we haven't been as much as we should be, or shouldn't be. Over the last 16 years I've been involved in scrutiny, it has got more party political. For many years, both sides tried to reach a consensus over recommendations, but this has fallen away in the last few years. At least this last year, we've been able to send a scrutiny recommendation to Cabinet, something that very rarely happened in the years between 2010 and 2014. So what do we need to improve scrutiny for next year? We need to amend the workload of the Health and Social Care Committee. There's too much work in that area for one committee, and I am pleased to see that we're going to be moving the housing section to the Streets and Environment Committee. We need to review Croydon's key decision framework. The framework has been in place for many years and is out of date. It is too restricted, which means that items such as selling off the Riesco collection cannot be charged as it's not seen as a financial cost. This needs to change. We need better scrutiny of the local police. Croydon taxpayers pay millions in council tax to pay for the police, and it's unacceptable for senior police officers to turn around and say they're only accountable to the Mayor of London and to MOPAC. We will challenge this assumption over the next year. We need more pre-decision scrutiny. Council officers and Cabinet members are coming round to the fact that early scrutiny is not a threat. But we need to have more chance of us if we are going to make a difference. And finally, political parties need to be more relaxed about their members not towing the party political line in scrutiny. Scrutiny is unwhipped, and I am pleased to be part of a party that has in its rule book a rule which means that Labour Cabinet members do not have a vote when the Labour group elects the chair of scrutiny. I suggest that it would be a good idea if other parties followed. Finally, I need to thank all the councillors and officers who have helped us over the previous years, and I would also like to thank Sean Crichton, who's not here, who sends many in-depth emails and are a valuable resource. And most important, I want to thank the officers who supported over the last year, Solomon, Alona, James, and especially Karen, who's leaving us for pastures new. I move the report.
Councillor Bonner, do you second the report?
Yes, Madam Mayor, I second the report.
Councillor Bonner, now call upon you to introduce the Health and Social Care report and Housing Subcommittee report. You have no more than 3 minutes.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, for the opportunity to speak about the work of scrutiny and in particular the committee I chair, the Health, Social Care and Housing Subcommittee. These are three very important topics which impact on us all at some stage of our lives and are vital to protect some of our most vulnerable residents. Our job is to hold the commissioners and providers of these services to account, whether that's the Cabinet member with responsibility for that area or the external organisations who provide our health services. We have endeavoured to include a number of new topics in our work programme over the last year as a way of testing the services provided to our residents. As an example, we scrutinised health professionals allied to medicine, such as physiotherapists, to understand whether sufficient provision is available to meet the demand from residents. We've also followed up on topics we have scrutinised in previous years to ensure that implementation is going according to plan. Implementation of the Care Act and the joint commissioning between the Council and Health Services to provide joined-up services for over 65s are just two examples. We have also scrutinised the delivery of the housing repairs contract in the 2 years since the contract was awarded. We have also responded to changing circumstances by including topics that the Clinical Commissioning Group asked us to consider after the work programme had been agreed, and arranging a special meeting to consider the CQC report resulting from the inspection of Croydon University Hospital. Another service we brought back to scrutiny was the London Ambulance Service, following the CQC placing the service into special measures. We were able to obtain assurances that, for example, the problems being experienced in some areas of London are not such an issue in Croydon. We also benefit enormously from having a co-opted member from Health Watch. He is able to provide a different perspective that enhances the work that we undertake. Myself and Councillor Neil also attend cross-borough health scrutiny. The most recently concluded joint scrutiny concerned the reorganisation of St George's Mental Health Trust. And there is a new joint scrutiny starting next week to scrutinise proposals by SLAM to centralise their place of safety away from individual boroughs. And finally, we're always open to suggestions from members and our residents about topics that need to be scrutinised. I mean, obviously, I'm happy to take any questions, but I would also like to echo Councillor Fitzsimon's recognition of the work that the officers and also the members of our committees do, because it is an important role, and I think, you know, everyone takes it very, very seriously, but we couldn't do it without the support of the officers. Thank you.
Councillor Bashford, you have no more than 3 minutes to introduce your report on the Children and Young People Subcommittee.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Before I start my report, I just would like to make three short comments. The first is to pass on our congratulations to Councillor Fleming on the birth of her daughter. The second is to reassure Jane Avis, Councillor Avis, that although she moved from South Norwood to Selsdon and has lost the Thai restaurant, we do have the best Indian restaurant in the Royal Tandoori in Selsdon. Thirdly, I'd just like to reassure Councillor Fitzsimons that Cabinet members in our party also don't have a vote on who's on scrutiny. Now for the main part. The Children and Young People Scrutiny Subcommittee has a very interesting year. We've looked at many topics, including how children are affected by domestic violence, children and adolescent mental health services, fostering and adoption, safeguarding, children's social care, school places and educational provision in the borough. Safeguarding is a topic the committee recognises crucial to the welfare of our young people. So we've all undertaken training and agreed it should be available for all councillors. I know many of you already had this training and I hope it was useful, especially if you needed advice about what to do if you had a safeguarding issue to deal with. It's been good to see the progress the Council has made over the last couple of years in this area, and that also of child sexual exploitation. Partner organisations have put good procedures into place and have been happy to answer questions. The most memorable meeting for me was the Young People's Takeover on November the 17th. The committee co-opted 7 young people from Croydon College who'd spent the summer and autumn developing their public speaking skills and questioning techniques on a topic of their choosing, which was housing for young people, a very topical issue as demonstrated by its extensive media coverage. Politicians, officers and representatives of housing organisations were questioned extensively, as I'm sure Councillor Butler will testify, leading to 9 recommendations to improve housing provision in the borough. And I hope these won't just be accepted on paper, but actually will be acted on and implemented. On this committee, as well as council members, we have co-opted members representing the Church of England, the Roman Catholic Diocese, 2 parent governor representatives and 1 teacher representative. I really value the insights these co-opted members bring to the subcommittee and thank them for their hard work and support. I would also like to thank everyone who served on the committee, members and officers alike, for their dedication, and very much hope that the work done in the next municipal year is as positive and constructive as the last one. Thank you.
I now open the report to questions from councillors. Are there any questions? As there are no questions for the annual scrutiny report 2015-16, does the council receive the report? All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. All those against, please say no. The ayes have it. Agenda item number 16. Annual report of the General Purpose and Audit Committee. Councillor Ryan, do you move the annual report?
Madam Mayor, I move the report as printed on the agenda.
Councillor Ali, do you second that report?
Yes, Madam Mayor, I second.
Councillor Ryan, will you please present your report? You have no more than 3 minutes. Oh. So you have nothing else to add? It's all right.
Madam Mayor, I have nothing further to the report, but one exceptional item I would like to mention. I'd like to thank the officers and the Vice Chair and the Cabinet member who were very active during the course of the year. It's been an exceptional busy year this year, particularly since the savage cuts imposed by the national government really on local government. It really has affected the way work is carried out. But all the councillors on both sides really participated fully, were very involved, were very active all the time, and the officers in particular, especially the one regarding the anti-fraud performance, that was outstanding really. We identified something like £1.360 million and a great lot of convictions as well, and it's been a great advantage to the borough really, the outstanding performance of those officers, which is Stephen Maddock. Councillor Ali has been superb during the course of the year, as indeed has the Cabinet member as well, attended all the meetings. I'd like to thank the opposition as well for getting very involved and holding this council to account. And hopefully you were quite happy with all the papers which were prepared and distributed during the course of the year. And I hope that you could appreciate that you were allowed to ask all those questions at all times. Thank you.
Well done,
Do members have any questions? Right. In that case, does the council receive the report? Please say aye. Aye. Those against, please say no. The ayes have it. Agenda item 17, annual report of the Health and Wellbeing Board. Councillor Mansell, do you move the report?
Chair, yes, I do move the report, and I'm sure everybody can read it, and I'm sure. I'm sure that Councillor Margaret Mead will second the report. I have a few additional comments, if I may. The NHS and the social services have always depended on dedicated staff who derive satisfaction from deploying their expertise to the benefit of patients. They have always worked 7 days a week and beyond their contracts. So I want to begin with a big thank you to all the staff of the NHS and social services, who have worked so hard to improve delivery of services in the interest of the people of Croydon. Last week, the board received the report of the improvements to the maternity services at Croydon University Hospital. Managers and staff have improved facilities, training and systems so that patient satisfaction is 100% for the labour ward, tested regularly by Labour councillors. The Labour government increased training numbers. The NHS asked managers, how many staff will you need? Managers, cowed by threats to their jobs, provided minimum estimates. The Tories cut places and claimed credit for the emerging qualified staff. Occupational health therapists, physiotherapists, specialist nurses, A&E consultants and an A&E department closed last week in the north of England. District nurses and, critically, general practitioners are in short supply. Increased waits to see a GP in A&E and the cancer fast track even, staff under strain and the extra cost of agency staff. The poor leadership at mid-staffs revealed the consequences of cost-cutting on staffing levels and quality of care. Staffing standards became mandatory, but two-thirds of trusts will be overspent or underfunded. The budget is cut to public health. GPs are asked to do more for less, and pharmacies are closing across the country. Winterbourne View contracted to assess specific needs of patients and return them to local services with a robust care plan, did neither. Cut costs, poor training, and you get a scandal of abuse. Staff and managers have worked hard to bring a more effect for less cost, incorporating evidence-based systems. It is the NHS staff and social services staff who have protected services. Privatisation brings the ethos of costs first, competition reduces partnership working. Great care is needed to be taken into account on contract management to avoid unexpected consequences and extra costs. David Cameron appreciates the NHS but does not understand. But
I have to say, Councillor, it is time.
Madam Mayor, this is a 3-minute speech.
Yes,
and it's
I'm
been
aware.
interrupted.
Councillor, on the other side, you'll need to sit.
David,
just finish.
This is the last.
Councillors,
this is the last bit. David Cameron appreciates the NHS but does not understand how it works. Jeremy Hunt, please listen to junior doctors. Ditch your prejudice against trade unions. Listen to the BMA,
Councillor, you've been given extra time.
Doctors and protects and promotes good practice. Mr Hunt's analysis of the data is flawed. Imposing a contract even by proxy,
Councillor, would you please sit down?
Will not improve the service and is devastating
Councillor,
for
would you
morale.
please sit
Listen to those
down.
who know. Please suspend his contract and return to the negotiating table.
Thank you,
Senate Arte,
it's off. It's off. Councillor Margaret Mead, do you second?
I second the report, Madam Mayor. I welcome the cross-party working of the board, and I have nothing further to add.
Does the councillor receive the report? Please say aye. Aye. Those against, please say no. The ayes have it. Agenda number 18, recommendations deferred for debate. There is no business to deal with under this item. And with that, I should thank each and every one of you here tonight for your presence and your contributions. And that concludes the meeting. Thank you.